But we are gonna have a conversation, and I want to introduce our moderator. His name is Rondo. Where is, oh, there he is. Rondo came all the way from New York to be here to moderate this panel, and I'm gonna let him tell you about himself as well. Hold on, sir.
Morning, everybody. So a little bit about me. I also work with Today and Reform Alliance. I'm based in New York City. I'm the Gen Z organizer there. So what I do is I make people with the ages of people born in 1997 to 2012 to get them interested in criminal justice reform. Various ways. The most recent ways that I did that, this April we had the Gen Z Day of Action, which is the opportunity for college students to engage with reform and host an event at their college where they have the opportunity to spread awareness around criminal justice reform and just start the momentum flowing in the school. So we did a statewide, first time ever doing it, and we had 13 schools across the state. It was very successful. And we also had one of the most highest viewed ever social media content that we put out regarding the Gen Z Day of Action. Also, we have a lot of like students like, come to my school, come here. So this year we did 12 schools. So next year we're aiming to do a minimum of 25 and expand. So I'm just here in support of Tanay and in support of reform, and I'm just here to to moderate this panel. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Eddie Fordham. At the age of 18 and a senior in high school in 1991, I was arrested as the driver in a tragic armed robbery. I was 18 by 1 month, and I served 31 years, 2 months, and 8 days in 17 maximum security prisons across the state of Florida. In April of 2022, I was granted the grace of parole. I immediately went back to school and I received my associate's degree with a 4.0 GPA. I made the dean's list, and I'm the first formerly incarcerated college graduate from Florida to receive an academic achievement award. In October of last year, I was invited by the Florida Senate Criminal Justice Committee to talk about a program called the Dr. Regina B. Sharon Corrections Transition Program, which since 1996 has successfully helped 500 men with long-term sentences make a successful transition to a life of freedom. And I was very honored and proud to share with the Senate that the recidivism rate of those 500 men is only 1.7%. Saving taxpayers $116 million versus the cost of keeping them incarcerated. This program is how we end mass incarceration in the state of Florida. I developed a passion for policy and went back and applied at Florida State University, where I am now in the College of Interdisciplinary Social Sciences and Public Policy. Go Nobles. And before I hand off the mic to our wonderful moderator, I just want to thank everyone in the audience. I see so many friendly and familiar faces. You guys, I see my network supporters here today, but there's one in particular of just recently that I would like to point out. His name is Kamari. Kamari, will you raise your hand? Kamari is the director of the Transfer Leadership Institute at Florida State University under the Student Government Association. And He said the other day that he supports the people that are part of TLI, and he came here on his own time. And that really means a lot to me because he is an example of how Florida State University has really welcomed me in spite of my past, because the university that I'm attending, they see my future potential. Thank you.
Really quick, I think I did a poor job of really introducing myself. Yes, I am the director of the Florida Safety Coalition and the Florida State Organizer for Reform Alliance, but I'm also sitting here as a returning citizen myself. I gave 10 years of my life to the Florida Department of Corrections, and I like to say not as an employee, because they did not pay me while I was there. Even though I pulled trees for them. When I came home in 2012, I faced 8 years probation. Last month, October, it's 4 years that I have been on probation. And as a matter of fact, the day that the judge signed my release papers, which was October 26th, I was standing on the stage last month getting the Community Advocate of the Year award by the Florida Justice Center. So, what a difference 4 years makes. What a difference 2 years made, because that's how long I've been opening my mouth and telling my story in regards to what probation is, what prison is, and hopefully praying that we can see some type of change in the future. So yeah, that's a little bit more. Rhonda, you got it.
So before I get into any questions, I'm also directly impacted by the system myself. I did 2 years on Rikers. And those of you who don't know, Rikers is top 3 worst jails in the country. So it's amazing to see how you see people go all different types of life. Some people do 10, some people do 20, some people do 5. But it's always good to see when people come back and pour that back into the community, because it's so easy to be like, I hate the system, give up, let's destroy it. But when you have people who actually walk the walk and talk the talk, coming to talk to people to give them a better understanding on how it is to re-enter, it just opens up your mind a little bit more, and so you can start to feel the empathy. Because it's not easy being a returning citizen and having the stigma of being incarcerated on your belt everywhere you go. So that being said, I'd like to start off with the first question. And so I want to know, what role did forgiveness play in re-entering back into society?
So forgiveness, oh gosh, self-forgiveness played the biggest role. And a lot of people don't understand that when someone can't forgive themselves, they keep reliving over and over again what they did, the mistake they made. And it took me 8 years to forgive myself, almost 9 years to forgive myself. And once I forgave myself, I began to thrive because I stopped replaying the mistake I made years ago over and over in my head, like sports highlights. And that's what they were. And I was torturing myself, in essence, by not being able to let go of what I did to land me, not graduating college, not being with my family, not being with my grandmother on her last Christmas. So it's like all of those things, I'm beating myself up because of it, because I didn't forgive myself. And I remember someone saying, it's probably me, that said, God forgives, but everybody else holds on to the mistake you made, probably until they die. You could die before them, they're still mad at you. So I was like, if God is forgiving me, then I'm good. So let me just go ahead and let this go and forgive myself as well. So forgiving myself allowed me to thrive and allowed me to shine a little bit brighter and allowed me to be sitting in front of you guys today. If not for forgiveness, I wouldn't be here.
Forgiveness has the power to change lives. But for those of us that have caused harm, we don't have the right to seek that forgiveness from the people that we harm. That is only something that they can give. As a person who speaks to men about accountability that are incarcerated and are going up for parole, I have read their remorse letters and cover letters to the families. And I know that in the heart, in the deep parts of each man's heart, they want that forgiveness. But they really don't have the right to say, forgive me. That's something that the person that was harmed or the people that were harmed, they have to give that freely from themselves. Wherever they find that power to do that within themselves, because it's really for them. It frees the person that was harmed from living a lifetime of that pain and trauma, and they will still have it, but at least through the power of forgiveness, they can learn to manage it, to deal with it, and to maybe get involved in restorative justice circles. The person that does receive forgiveness, though, there is a power that can move that person to a change process. I have seen that happen. I have seen men say, I received a letter today from the victim's family, and that letter broke that person down. And then all of a sudden you could see such an amazing movement in that person's life.
So thank you for that. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to, make it? I'm calling anybody, but I just want to put it out there. I want everybody to be a part of this. Is there anybody in the audience who maybe know anybody or has anything to say about how forgiveness plays a role in reentry? If not, that's completely fine. I just want to be able to open the floor up. No? Good. Okay. Next question. So what role did certain programs that you attended pre-incarceration and after played in your reentry process? And yeah, what role did it play?
Okay. During my incarceration, I read a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And this is a man that was a prisoner in a Nazi concentration camp. So his circumstances were far worse than mine. And in this book, he said, when you can no longer change a situation, the only thing left you have to change is yourself. And the last of the human freedoms is the freedom to choose one's own way. For me, when I found that book sitting on a bunk at Lake Butler, Florida, in a cell, my first night incarcerated, could not sleep. This book just was a little thin book. I read it that night, and that planted a seed in my mind. Throughout my incarceration, I made sure that I enrolled in positive programs that would feed my mind, my heart, and my spirit. I ended up finding purpose for my life, even in the midst of my incarceration, by serving others. I was a tutor, a chaplain's orderly. I just found ways where I felt like when I was serving others, I was opening up my greatest potential. 31 years, 2 months, 8 days later, someone sought to give me grace, the Florida Parole Commission. And all of those programs that I had participated in over the years were helping me to prepare all along. After I was released, I went into another program called A. Brown Ministries in Hillsborough County. They have a workforce readiness program, and you go through their program for 6 weeks. You learn interviewing skills, how to do a resume, how to answer the question, have you ever been convicted of a crime? And once you go through their program, they put you on what's called their Ready Client List. Ready Client List is a list of fair opportunity employers in the Hillsborough County area that will hire you if you've gone through the A. Brown program. And when you go to that interview, they don't ask a whole lot of questions about your past. They see your future potential because A. Brown has already vetted us when we go to those employers. And so because of that, I was able to get hired at Feeding Tampa Bay, which is part of the Feeding America network. And while I was at Feeding Tampa Bay, I got promoted twice. And while I was there, I helped someone else that had a former life sentence get a job while I was there. So that was just someone paved the way for me. and I held the door open for somebody else. So programs have been, and still are, an integral part of my successful transition to a life of freedom.
I am an advocate for Operation New Hope. I am one of their voices of hope. When I came home, I was at Operation New Hope. A week later, a week after that, I was working as a logistics, analyst for a company that they partnered with. So Second Chance Hiring played a huge role in being able to come home and try to make a new pathway and be able to sustain myself. Also, my mother, support is huge. My father, these people were in my corner and they never looked down on me, which is, that's one of the biggest things. So not only did that outside support through Operation New Hope, learning, I was in corporate America before I went to prison. I was making $60,000 a year. When I came home, I was making $6.25 an hour. A living wage is very important, but having that start, because when you come home and you don't have any direction and you have no one to, you can do this or you'll be okay, that plays a role in you not being able to do it and you not being okay. When Operation New Hope gave me that job, I was there for a year. And I was like, you know what, let me move on. And I had the confidence to do so. I went and got another job. They didn't do a background check, praise God. Because I did apply for some jobs, got the jobs, and they walked me out 2 weeks after I got it. Because my background check came back then. But the programs that don't exploit returning citizens, because some of them do, but help returning citizens find a better way and find success in their second chance is very important. Because some of us wouldn't be here and we would definitely recidivate without them.
So that leads me to my next question. Can you explain what second chance means to you personally and why it's important that everybody gets the opportunity to receive a second chance?
How many people believe in second chances? That's great. But what about better chances? Because sometimes second chances are not always better chances. So I believe in better chances. And I often speak about the second sentence returning citizens face when they come home. It's an invisible sentence. I was speaking in Miami last month and I was violated on probation, and I asked I asked the audience, why did they think I was violated on probation? And someone spoke up and said, because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And I said, no, ma'am. That's not it. It's because with my first sentence, I was sentenced to a second sentence, and I was sentenced to live below the poverty line. How do you make $6.25 an hour and expect to pay $400 a month in restitution? And if I can't pay this, then I get violated and go back to prison. When I was violated, they tried to give me 3.5 more years in prison for being poor. So it's not about a second chance, it's about better chances. And it's about being able to make a living wage in that better chance. It's about reducing the doohickeys of probation. The doohickeys of probation. What's the condition? The conditions of probation. Like, people don't understand that some condition of probation is like you can't have any contact with law enforcement. I got pulled over for a craftsmanship. That's me having interaction with law enforcement. That's a violation of my probation. I was rushed to the hospital by ambulance to a different county. That was a violation of my probation because I wasn't supposed to be out of my county, but the closest county was like right there. That was the closest hospital. So we talk about second chances when we really need better chances. That's what I gotta say about that.
I know we throw that word around, second chances, a lot in this space and in the literature. But it's really a term that I think we need to take a second look at. Instead of second chances, let's talk about opportunities. Because for some people, they never received a first chance. And for the vast majority of our incarcerated population, that might just be the case if we look a little deeper into their life circumstances. The other thing about second chance as a term, who came up with that term? I can't put a name with it, but I'm pretty sure it was someone that was already in control or authority over me. And for that authority to say, you know, here's a second chance, I'm being defined according to their perception of me. Well, I believe in opportunities, not percentages and not ratios. Because I believe 100% in me, not 50% in me, not 65% in me, but 100%. And so when I have an opportunity to be my best version, right? To me, that's not a second chance. To me, that is being the person that God created me to be. And if others could see me through the same eyes as my creator, I don't think we'd be talking about second chances. I like better chances, right? Yeah, it's good, better chances.
Shirt that say better chance.
But opportunities are what people need, because if we give them the opportunity, they'll surprise us instead of calling them a percentage or a ratio.
So my next question, I want to be able to get it, you know, the audience, you know, people who wasn't directly impacted, better understanding of how it feels the day you come home. So if you guys could explain, like, how was it the first day of returning back to society? You walked through those gates and you were finally able to free, you don't gotta worry about guards and the towers. How was the first day like for you guys? And I want you guys to really explain it, because I need people to understand how important it is on what's running in people's minds that are being away for what it doesn't even matter how long. I've seen people freeze up in 3 days being in the holding cell, not even making it to Rikers, you know, just sitting in the boat and people's freezing up. So explain what's in your mind the first time those gates opened, you walked out, you were free, completely free.
For me, the whole time that I was incarcerated, I will say I did not know the day that I was going to be released because I had a life sentence. So I was told that I was going to die in prison. But inside of me, I had faith that one day I would be free. My biggest fear was that my parents would pass away during my incarceration. And my dad actually did. My dad got cancer and passed away about a year before my release. I mean, he hung in there and he fought, but he ended up passing away. But my mom was still living. And the day I walked through the gate, my mom was there to welcome me back into freedom. And the amazing part about that day was that two men that I served time with, who actually also had life sentences and had been paroled a year earlier, they went and picked up my mom and drove her from Pensacola. She came from Pensacola all the way to Miami to be at the gate for me. And these other two former life sentence men made sure that that would happen. And when I walked out, my mom goes, "Well, where do you want to go eat?" And we went to the IHOP. I had a steak omelet. And when I bit into that omelet, every single bite of that omelet was just getting better and better and better. And it was just like taking more bites of my freedom And I was also surrounded by two of my professors from Miami-Dade College that presented me with a computer to encourage me to continue with my education. So my first day of freedom was walking into the arms of the people that loved me and cared about me, and that's what made it such a great moment for me.
I don't want to, because I'm a cry. I'm do it, give it a second. Cause Eddie started it. All right. So not like Eddie, but I knew, the day that I was coming home. And in like, what, a month, maybe a month or a couple weeks before, you can write to your family and let them know what you would like to come home in. They'll send you a box of clothes and some shoes. Putting on civilian clothes. People take for granted little things like that, right? Putting on my outfit and walking out. And walking out and my mom being there to pick me up. I remember getting in the back seat of the car and she was just ready to drive. And I said, "Mom, wait." And she's like, "What?" I said, "Just wait. I just need to see your face." I hadn't seen my mom in 2 years. So stopping and just taking in the moment and seeing my mom's face and just being able to look at her was a big deal. And then when we drove, I think it was like a 2-hour ride to her house, and I walk in and I see my best friend there. And she hugs me and she doesn't want to let me go. And then I asked her where my niece was, and she was like, "Oh, she's wherever." And I was like, how is my niece not here? And you knew I was coming home. Thank you. And you knew I was coming home. And then my niece runs out of the back. Surprises me. And I give her the biggest hug. And then my other best friend drove from Georgia with my cousin, and they run out of the back. And it's just the outpouring of love and support in that moment. And I came home 3 days before my 32nd birthday. And it was a Saturday night, so into the Sunday, and on that Sunday, my mom threw the biggest party. And I saw my grandparents and my cousins, my aunts, and they welcomed me home and wished me a happy 32nd birthday. No, I was 31, so I was turning 32. So to have those people come in and just celebrate me and not worry about where I was, but just wanted to be there for me and missing me and supporting me was really big. So yeah, that's the day I came home. Rondo, you're not my friend.
Sorry, I knew what that question was gonna do, and the reason why I asked that is because I need people to understand what's running through people's minds when that gate opens. Even though you are physically free, mentally, you still feel trapped. And I can't imagine, people who did more than I did 2 years, and the day that I was released, it was a very scary experience. It was more scary because this is not the norm that I was used to, that I got comfortable with. So I asked that question so, people can get a very good understanding on what's running through people's minds when those gates open. Like, it doesn't mean that we're happy. It doesn't mean that everything is gonna be okay. We still have so much that we're carrying. Oh my God, where do I work? Where do I start? How's my mother doing? How's my father doing? How's my siblings doing? What's going on with this? What's going on with that? Are we still living here? Are we still living there? It's so much running through your mind. So that's why I wanted to ask that question, because I knew we need empathy in order to get through this. Empathy, we need community. And that question was the reason why I asked that. So I'm sorry, I didn't really mean to. Okay, so my next question is, what role? We're gonna hand, oh, absolutely.
And the beauty of the support you both had is something that everybody should be so lucky to have, but it's just simply not the case. And you guys know that from a lot of people that we met while behind bars and working for, the store, which is women's reentry in Jacksonville. And they, you know, a lot of them come with nothing, they don't have anybody, or they choose to cut ties with those people. And so you know how hard it is to reenter society, the barriers are treacherous. And so to have the support, and you still know how hard it is, you think about the people that don't have your families, and just how it's just so easy to fail. And I love that that's why we're here today, to really understand just that barrier is just big and deep.
Thank you, Jackie. Actually, I really appreciate you reminding us that a lot of people coming out don't have that family support and that network waiting for them. And I think our conversation will get it more into pathways, you know, from the gate and back into society and some of the other questions. But walking out of prison sometimes and having no family and just $50 from the state. I mean, what do you do with that if you have no path? So there are people in this room and in the spaces where we talk that are creating those pathways and are dedicated servants to that. But there's a lot of work that still needs to be done when it comes to releasing people from prison and reintegrating back into society.
So that leads me to my next question. What can employers do to better accommodate people who are given the better opportunity to do better? And how can, as employers, we can support people coming from that walk of life?
As far as employers go, it's important for employers to know that when they hire someone with a felony conviction or has been justice impacted, that many times that person can become one of their most dedicated and most committed workers in that workforce. I have seen it happen time and time again. And I'm going to go back to Feeding Tampa Bay for a moment and give them their props. They have created what is called Fresh Force. Fresh Force brings people in from the margins of society and onboards them into really good paying jobs. Like Taneen said earlier, a lot of times employers will take advantage of people coming out of the system, right? Well, at places like Feeding Tampa Bay, they're learning logistics. They're becoming CDL truck drivers, forklift operators. They're getting those certifications, and is really propelling them to great opportunities. I will tell you that Feeding Tampa Bay has hired about 9 people that I personally know who are in prison for at least 25, some 30, and some 40 years. And for them to hire these people into their workforce, and then for our chief operations officer to call all of us into her office one day and say, I want you guys to know that when we made the decision to begin hiring, because it started with 1, right? And then it was 2. And then they were like, we want more of you guys, right? And women. And they brought us in and then had a special meeting with our COO. She says, you guys are the most committed workforce that we have here at Feeding Tampa Bay. You keep this place running. And then they started an award, a hero award. And every year since that award started about 4 years ago, has gone to a formerly incarcerated person at Feeding Tampa Bay. So it's important for employers to understand that. Now, we're not saying to employers, employ people coming out of the system because it makes you feel good inside. Okay, let's talk business, right? You're a business owner. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that your business is operating efficiently and that you're making a profit, right? You do good by hiring people that are formerly incarcerated. It's good for the economy and it's good for your business. Not only that, you get tax incentives, the work opportunity tax credit, you get bonding from the federal government. There are a lot of incentives out there for employers to hire people that are justice impacted. And if we can educate our local employers more about those incentives, I think that we would see an increase in hiring.
I've seen the good and I've seen the bad. The first job I got when I came home, $6.25 an hour. We were working 7 days a week, 10, sometimes 12 hours a day, and couldn't pay my rent. And they knew that we needed the job and we weren't going anywhere. So were we treated the best? No. And it caused a lot of animosity because like, we need this job, because if I don't keep this job, I can get violated on my probation. And because they knew that, they just exploited us. Now I'm telling you about the good. Reform Alliance. We have, let's see, how many? I think we took a picture, it's like 10 of us. It's like 10 returning citizens, and we're not in the shadows, we are in the forefront. We run that company. And they use us because of our lived experience. Some people think that a degree is better than lived experience. It's not always. My lived experience can take you from here to there and run circles around someone who has a degree in this because they haven't lived it. So lived experience is one of the best, and I tell people all the time, and you're like, well, I don't have an experience. We have lived experience. And it's not just about someone that went to prison with lived experience. If you are a teacher, you have lived experience of being a teacher. If you are a plumber, if you are a mother, a father, you have lived experience in something. So we share our lived experience with the world because it's important and it's of value. Reform Alliance knows that. And I appreciate Reform Alliance for knowing that. And giving us the opportunity to show like we're just as good as anyone else. And to what Eddie said, we are the most hardworking because we have something to prove. And it's not just something to prove to society and you all, it's something to prove to ourselves. And we appreciate the chances that we are given because we don't get them often. So to employ someone that has something to prove, not just to the world, but to themselves, is like one of the best people you can possibly employ. We're loyal. I don't want to lose my job. It's gonna be hard to get another, even with this experience. So I'm gonna be the best worker I can be, so I can make sure I keep making this money.
How important is it for you to congratulate yourself on the many steps that you take after reentry? We don't always hear the people landing the good jobs. There's still people who's been home for years who have been accomplishing goals, but it's not a goal that they want to really foresee. So how important is it that you congratulate yourself on the many milestones as you're trying to achieve something greater than you would yesterday?
We had a conversation about this last night. You know what the three of us represent? Hope. We represent hope to those who are coming behind us. The most dangerous person in the world is a person without hope. And society takes that away from us when we go into prison. So to see 3 individuals, one with a life sentence, you got 10, you got 2, to see us being in a position of where we're sustaining ourselves and we have some level of success after prison, it gives others hope when they see us. I had the imposter syndrome so horribly bad. I didn't believe I belonged in rooms that I went into, didn't believe I belonged at tables that I sat at. And the day my imposter syndrome went away is the day before I took the stage and did a TED Talk. And I talked to the director and I would always, in my head, I would say, y'all had 12 applications for this TED, right? And y'all chose the 12 you had. And she looked, she said, what? I said, you had 12 applications, and I decided to be one of the 12. And she said, no, we had over 200 applications. And we chose you because you belong here. That's when I realized that it's something to me, and I need to accept it, and I need to pat myself on the back sometimes. Because girl, you made it a little bit. I haven't made it everywhere I want to go, but I've made it a little bit. And I'm gonna keep making it a little bit, and I'm gonna pat myself on the back every step of the way. Because there were times where there was no pats on the back, and I struggled. I have survived every one of my bad days. Every one of them. So to be able to say, you know, you did that. That was you. You pulled yourself up by the bootstraps, and here you are, sitting in front of these people, telling them your story, and they listening. That's crazy.
Crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy.
To live so long without knowing when you're going to be released. When you're in a dorm, each month they pass out what's called a game time sheet. And if you're not someone who, if you are someone serving a life sentence, the date on your game time sheet is, now hear me when I say this, 99, 98, 99, 99. The year 99, 99. And every month I was given that piece of paper telling me that's my release date. Others around me would have May 15th, April 3rd, 2023. You know, well, I would see the years go by. Some May 1st, 1992. The next guy, May 1st, 1995. And I live a little more in there. And the next guy would have one May 1st, 2000. I live a little more in there. Somebody had one May 1st, 2005. But yet somewhere deep inside of me, I just had this will to just keep going, keep going. When I was finally released, I understand exactly what Tanane says about imposter syndrome. I was feeling a lot of anxiety about whether or not society would accept me. When I received my scholarship from the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation.
Please tell them what that is.
Yeah. You
gotta tell them what it is. Yeah, you gotta tell them what it is.
The Jack Kent Cooke Foundation, Jack Kent used to own the Washington, what was then called the Washington Redskins, right? It's not called that anymore. And he always wanted to go back to college and get a higher education. So he took his billions of dollars and he created a scholarship fund for young scholars and for transfer students. It's one of the most prestigious and most competitive scholarships in the nation. It's $55,000 per year for 2 to 3 years to receive, for transfer students, to receive your bachelor's degree. And then it's $150,000 for graduate school. 1,700 people across the nation from 330 community colleges applied for the scholarship. They picked 70 people and only 4 from Florida, and I was one of the 4. Law school. The question was, how do we reward ourselves? So I was given a plane ticket to fly to Virginia. And we walked in there and the founder, not the founder, the director of the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation said to the entire crowd, he says, I want you to understand that if you feel like you're an imposter in this room, nobody here gave you an award of a scholarship. You earned it. And that was so empowering. And it made me realize, yes, I did put in the hard work. I did study at the foot of my cell door where I had a sliver of light and wrote on a concrete floor, and my handwriting looked like chicken scratch because of the pores in the concrete, you know, in a cell that had no air conditioning. I was in prison for 31 years, 2 months and 8 days, and was never in an air conditioned dorm, okay? They are just beginning to get there. But that was the reality, to be able to give myself these small rewards. What I do now,
Yeah.
every now and then I treat myself to a movie.
Yes.
Gordon, you mentioned the imposter syndrome. And that's the internal mechanism that kind of holds someone back from moving forward. And you're very fortunate that you have systems that allow you to release that. But Pensacola, I've spent years and years in prisons in Ohio, in Florida, in the Carolinas. But anyway, my question was, will we be able to address someone with confidence and impact of mental health? Because my experience is that there's a lot of support and everyone says, hey, you can do whatever, but if you have that, whether it's hard phenomenon, whether it's depression, anxiety, anger issues, bipolar, all these things are internal barriers that are going to hold them back. And without a support system, when they get frustrated, the mind has a way of finding a way to release dysfunction, frustration. And when I get frustrated, I'll go work out, you know, I'm sure some of you go for a walk, you go watch a movie or whatever. But many of the folks that have dealt with in the prison system, when they get frustrated, what do? They hide, they go hang in the club, etc., and that was a bad thing. So will there be some discussion of role now?
Really quick on that. I'm an advocate for therapy.
Yeah.
In 2021, I hit rock bottom and I was depressed and I was drinking my lunch, breakfast, and dinner, which was Heineken, and I don't even drink beer. And I knew I needed some type of help because I had lost everything the year before. And when I entered therapy, they gave me the tools that I needed to cope. As well as I have ICD, impulsive control disorder. And without therapy, I wouldn't have been able to have those tools to, and I'm gonna be honest, to walk into a store with a pocket full of money and still not want to spend it. So therapy is, and people, I tried to get my uncle to go to therapy. He said, I'm not crazy. It's a stigma. I told my mother to go to therapy. She is the best person now. Because it's important to be able to work through and talk through things that people have trauma. And prison is a cesspool for trauma. So having the access to mental health therapy, having the will to believe that you need it is a big ordeal. In prison, they had one therapist for 1,000 people. That's not helping anybody. So I get it, mental health is important. And to be able to address, want to say something about it?
No, yeah. No, I'm agreeing.
But that's something that needs to be discussed wholeheartedly.
If I may, it's a wonderful question we should be addressed. But according to the agenda and our panel today, we do not have a mental health expert as a presenter today. And it is something we should do at our next forum or panel discussion, which should be sooner rather than later, because we do need to come back and address these issues. And Brother Fred Flowers whispered in my ear a concern he has, and something we should also include in future forums conversations. So what I'm going to suggest is we're going to, ask you to volunteer to be on our next. You can help us set the stage for the conversations that need to be had. We're willing to do it. Can we go to amen, amen? Amen after coalition, so yes, thank you.
All right, so we're reaching the last 10 minutes of this panel discussion, so I want to open up the floor for questions, and please, nobody be shy. I know y'all got some questions, and I got questions, so, yeah, here we go, come on.
Will you let them use your mic?
Absolutely.
Oh, I understand y'all pain. Simple reason I understand y'all pain, I've been in y'all pain. And one thing y'all don't seem to forget in this issue. What if someone go to prison on the innocent? That seemed to be left out this conversation. And I myself is living proof. I've been in for 35 years for somebody else. That's why I understand y'all paying together, roll in one. And I have to use that because without these people here, I'd have still been there dying. One thing else y'all forgot, the technology that we are using. Technology. It's coming together. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, without it, I've been still in it. And I have to give them great thanks for what they did. And the question you asked that gentleman back there, this is what he do. He is what we call a social worker. He take us personally and enroll us back in society. When the system just put us in the system, in society. Because without his help, I won't have no social security, no food stamps, or nothing. Because my family can't do the work that he does. We trying to get this statewide, what he do.
Shout out to the Innocence Project.
This young lady and their staff in Tallahassee and around the country now are full of young people. This is their job. Let's get this very clear. They don't do it for the money. They don't do it for the money. Cause I talk to them every chance I get. What you doing here? You could be making millions, thousands. It ain't that, it's what they do.
What's your name?
James Bain,
Hey, James. Welcome home.
thank you.
Question is for the three of you. I know with a lot of us, it's so easy to give up hope in just our everyday lives. Whenever you guys were incarcerated, how hard was it to keep hope, and what kind of made you keep going?
For me, faith and family. Having those social connections throughout the years. Knowing that I had not been completely forgotten. As long as I still had those connections that helped me mentally, spiritually. I will say about therapy, that therapy is important. We have to have people that are gonna be willing to listen to us, because we are gonna have those dark days. But just not listen, but deep listen. and really give us their full attention when we're explaining to them what's going on. The truth of correction system is that we throw a lot of money at security. We put it in barbed wire. We put it in armor on the officers. We put it into cans of gas. We put it into surveillance. But what we put very little money into is mental health. We put very little money into therapy. And if you think about it, if we would put the money on the front end of therapy and programs, we probably would not need as much barbed wire and armor and surveillance.
For me, it was a little difficult. I was in Rikers, and the building I was in, everybody in there was between 18 and 21. So that's around the age where very egotistic. Everybody in there wanted to be the tough guy, nobody wanted to play with them. So when I first came to jail, I never had been a juvenile or anything like that. I always got a slap on the wrist or always got bail, so I never went inside. So when I first went in there, the first thing I seen was, kids walking around with knives on their head. That's the first thing I seen when I came into RNC. Mach 3 up in North to be exact. And it was very eye-opening that I had to become somebody of violence in order to thrive in this environment. And that's what I did for my first 6 to 7 months. Until, as we spoke last night's name, a brother named Pastor Tim from Orlando came to Rikers Island with the vision from God that he needed to start something there. I joined that initiative. It's called Men of God. That's what opened up my cores and opened up my perspective, opened up my mind to see that the whole time God was trying to reach me. So faith, that's one. Two, my mother, she never missed a court date, never. Turned around, she was there. She never missed a phone call. She was just there. So that support, I was lucky enough to have that. And the last thing that I had that a lot of people didn't really get to grasp was the living example that we had to live by when we were there. See, there were kids who went home, with real talent. I'm talking about kids who can rap, kids who can troll, kids who can write a story, and they're back for a worse charge than what they was here for. And I really, that right there was my main thing I gravitated towards, because I seen this is repetitive. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be a statistic. I already am because I'm here, but once I get out of there, I can't come back. Why? They keep coming back. I hate it. So I use that, living examples of people who I knew who had talent. I know I had talent. Not to put it that way, but I had to look at something and okay, I don't want to make that mistake. I don't want to do that. Can't go there. Can't wear that. And I put that into perspective, and I prayed, and God helped me get through that. So that was me. Any questions?
Hey there, and you brought something up, and I think this is for both Ed and Tanae, and Shirley Rondo too, from some way. First of all, the sheet with game time numbers on that was a really appalling thing to hear. And we can certainly more offline talk about that, but if y'all don't mind talking a little bit about the state of game time in Florida, how that affected those while we're inside, and maybe where you think that should be going, if anywhere, which I know somewhere.
Anytime.
Yeah. Because I did time in Florida.
Right, it's out of order, but
Go ahead.
is it right that if you do have a life sentence? No, at some point during your sentence, game time just completely stops. Yeah, so game time just completely stops. So you're getting a game time sheet that's not moving anywhere. My game time, I knew that I was gonna get out on this day, unless I lost my game time. And I got 2 years in prison. I did 18 months. In New York, They do 50%, they do, day for day?
Yeah, so I think it's what, maybe 20 days good is 10 days not.
Okay, so they get a substantial amount of time out of Florida, not so much. Florida gonna make you do your whole time if they could. 85% of your time is what you're going to do. No questions asked. And I believe that once that incentive is taken away, like once, man,
It's an incentive killer.
it's,
No matter what a person does, once they reach 85, they're gonna do 85% of their sentence here in Florida. So at that point, what incentive is there for them to behave, to get involved in programs? Here's what we have to do, and this is something Dr. Sharon talks about. Instead of using punitive measures to compel people, right? Let's give them the incentive to do so. That's when we're talking about reform, those are the kinds of mind shifts that we have to get into the legislation. Because right now, Florida is spending $3 billion a year on its criminal legal system. And that is unsustainable. It's people in this room and those that are in college that are Kamari's age to start thinking about reform, because, you know, the old school way is the good old boys, that's gone. We're stepping into a new era where data and science are leading the way. Jackie Dunn is one of those data scientists, by the way. And education. There are barriers to higher education in prison. We need to unlock higher education in prison. And just this last legislative session, there was a bill, Senate Bill 62, sponsored by Senator Osgood and Representative Edmonds. And it had unanimous support in the Senate and all but 5 members of the House. We had this beautiful kumbaya moment where Republicans and Democrats, Senate and House, came into the aisle and passed this bill. And we sent it up to Governor DeSantis, and he vetoed it. He vetoed it. This was an opportunity to make a dynamic change within the system that was not going to cost Florida taxpayers a single penny, because it was federal money. And all it basically said was, here's the deal. If you are a resident of Florida and you get in trouble, you go to prison, and while you're sitting there in your cell, I want to do something positive with my life. I want to get an education. So you go down to the education department, where Miami-Dade College is the first public college in Florida to establish an official campus inside prison. And you sign up and they say, okay, now you're a resident of Florida, but you're going to have to pay out of state tuition. Okay, forgive for a minute that it's hard enough to pay in-state tuition if you're incarcerated. But to be incarcerated, a resident of Florida, and told you have to pay out-of-state tuition makes 0 sense. But if we were to give it to where it's in-state tuition, they would be covered by the Pell Grant. And then these people would come out of the system in a condition better than they went in, because the truth is 95% of the people that are incarcerated are coming home. But how do we want them to return? Do we want them to return better than when they went in, or same or worse? And that's where I feel like education has a very important redemptive power, because it worked for me. And I know if it worked for me, it worked for others.
real quick, that's Jackie Knight, she got married.
Oh, okay, congratulations.
We got time for one more question, and then let's get some lunch.
I would expand what that was talking about. My son's in prison, he's in for 18 years, all prison for DUI manslaughter, age 20. And I am a data analyst and absolutely super nerdy, and I love it. And I have an anytime calculator. And so basically that's my whole speech for the legislative delegation meetings this year is around now better chances. I like that. Because you get 10 days a month. as long as you behave. You don't have to do anything for it. You don't have to try, you can land run all day long, you get the same 10 days that my son gets for doing all the things he does. He's a character coach, he teaches fitness, he teaches 2 classes, I mean, he does the work because he wants to. But just imagine what would happen if more people did the work because they got rewarded for it. Because some people need, love people need the rewards to do the work in the first place. Instead, you'll have 2,000, you'll hit this game time and halfway through your sentence up, almost 3,000 days of hopeless incarceration. I mean, you look at it that way, I mean, that's huge. And if we just gave them like these carrots to say like, yeah, you can earn everything you do in prison, you're gonna earn time out for second score. How much better are they to come out than right now when 44% of people leave prison without their G? I mean, it's ridiculous. And it's really bad right now.
And one last thing on game, I'm sorry. Gotcha. One last thing on game time. You can cut up the first half of your sentence. And if you hate the last half, you still get your game time. Sorry, I just want to point that out.
Let's give the panel and the moderator a well-deserved applause. What I would like to do, just 90 nanoseconds, is give each of you 25 nanoseconds to wrap up, and then we're going to ask Rebecca to come and share information with us about food. So you are going to bless us with your closing remarks before the food.
I'm doing closing remarks at the end.
Okay.
For my closing remark, I just want to say I'm just thankful. I'm honestly super happy to be here. Every time I go to a different state, to speak about reentry and second chance, better chance, and all the stigmas that come with a returning citizen. So it's different everywhere I go. Certain issues are more important than others, but it all ties back to one thing: criminal justice reform. So I just wanted to say I'm thankful to be here, and I'm going to leave with something. I'm going to leave more than what I came with, and I'm thankful for that.
Brother Ed. Tanae will join me as we wrap up closed sessions around 3 o'clock. So she's going to reserve her comments until then. Ed.
My closing comment is each of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. And that is a quote by Brian Stevenson. If you've read the book or seen the movie Just Mercy, or if you've been to the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, I think this really sums up what we're here for today. Steal my shirt.
So Rebecca is going to provide us with instructions as it pertains to next steps launch. Want to see if there's someone from the audience who would like to bless the food. If not, I will do so. Is there someone who would love to? Where? Please.
Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. Thank you for this food and the hands that have prepared it for the nourishment of our body. Christ is our Lord. Amen.
Rebecca.
How's everybody doing today? I don't think that was working. That's okay. I'm Rebecca Kelly Manders. I'm the founder and director of the Refire Culinary Program. If you're not familiar with Refire, Refire is one of the only reentry programs in the Leon County area. We are 7 years strong, 100+ graduates strong. In the back of the room here, we have Ms. Williams, who's one of our current students, and Ms. Marissa Jefferson. Ms. Jefferson is our lead instructor and manager, queen of the kitchen, and a graduate of Refire herself. Between the three of us, we have probably over 3 decades of incarceration between us. Refire's an 8-week culinary training program, helps people get certified so that, they can get jobs in the hospitality industry and stop the cycle of recidivism. If you want more information, head to our website, refireculinary.org.
Inviting a very young, future scholar, legal scholar, as well as a community activist scholar, present our keynote speaker. I am going to give the mic to Sister Allison Solomon, who has agreed to, first of all, share a few words of encouragement about herself, and then she's going to present our luncheon keynote. So Sister Solomon, in the most endearing terms, I turn the mic over to you.
Thank you.
Let's welcome her to the mic.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. My name is Allison Solomon. I'm a second year at Florida State University. I earned my associate's degree at the College of Central Florida in the spring of 2023, and I entered college as a student of the College of Social Sciences and Public Policy. I then joined the College of Social Work in spring this year, and I'm currently pursuing a dual degree in interdisciplinary social sciences and social work, and I am on a pre-law track. It is an honor to be in the space with you all, change makers, great critical thinkers, and movers of the society. And I would definitely like to thank Elaine Webb and Dr. Parker for this invitation to be here and speak to you all, and introduce the next speaker, Michael McBride. Michael McBride is a senior database administrator with Montalbano and Associates, and is currently contracted with the Florida Department of Transportation in Tallahassee. But he likes to say this is only his pay. Mr. McBride's passion actually derives from an unexpected incident which introduced him to the judicial world. In March of 2010, Michael's life changed completely when his son, Connor, who was only 19 years old at the time, took the life of his then fiance and Gaussian. This experience immersed Michael into the judicial world and changed his life completely. Normally, the family of the person who did harm is not part of the legal process, but Anne's parents, Kate and Andy Grosmere, requested that restorative justice was made part of Connor's case. As the story of this tragic case and the use of restorative justice gained exposure, Michael provided the unique perspective as a parent of the person who did harm. Together with his wife, Julie, and Anne's parents, he participated in numerous restorative justice events. This includes restorative justice forums at Campbell Law School and for the Florida Bar, social justice reforms throughout Tallahassee, Leadership Tallahassee Justice Day programs, and law and society classes at Florida State University. Michael has also spoken with the Gromiers at the Restorative Justice Program at River Phoenix Conference Center for Peace Building in Gainesville, and also at the Gainesville Commission on the Status of Women's Conference. Furthermore, to better support restorative justice advocacy, Michael has also joined the board of the Florida Restorative Justice Association and is currently serving as board president. In this role, he has promoted the benefits of restorative justice statewide and worked diligently to implement legislation that will strengthen the use of restorative justice throughout Florida. Michael McBride now takes every opportunity he can to provide his perspective as a parent and advocate for restorative justice to be used as an alternative in the current legal system. I'd like you to thank and help invite Mr. McBride to the stage.
March 28, 2010, my son Connor was having an argument with his fiance, Ann Gromer, at our house while we were away at spring break. As Ann drove away, Connor went back into the house, loaded my shotgun with one shell to take his own life, but then Ann came back into the house. In the ensuing interaction, Connor shot Ann. The tragedy began for us when we were in Destin with my mom and special needs daughter Katie at a friend's house for spring break. We were at Target, so grandma could buy Katie a baby doll when the phone rang. It had an identifier private, and I thought, I don't know anybody who would have that. I later found out that's what the police phones have. So I didn't answer it. Well, Julie was there, and when I caught up to Julie, she was excuse me, on the phone, ashen white. It was a sheriff from the Leon County Sheriff's Department who told her that Connor had shot his fiance and immediately turned himself into the Tallahassee Police Department. We left Target in a state of shock and went back to the condo. Since we had come in 2 cars, I could immediately come back to Tallahassee. As I left for home, leaving the girls to pack up, Julie was worried about me driving in such a state of shock. She told me she loved me to drive carefully, and she had the wisdom to tell me to go to the hospital. Once in town, I did go to the hospital. I went up to intensive care, and the waiting room and hallways were packed full of people. Kate and Annie Gromer were across a sea of people. I felt like a cartoon character shrinking in a place I did not belong. I stood against the wall, just breathing deeply to try to stem the nausea, when a woman approached me and said, "Are you Connor's dad? You look just like him." It turned out she was Connor's supervisor, and I later found out she went over to Andy Gromer and specifically said, "There's someone here to see you." Andy Gromer made his way across that sea of people, and he said something I will never forget. He said, "Thank you for being here. Please forgive me if I hate you by the end of the week." All I could say was, "I'm so sorry." The next morning, I went to the courthouse, still in a state of shock. I went to the information desk to find out where I needed to be, and the lady at the desk said, you do not look very good." All I could do was point to my son's name on the front page of the Democrat. She told me which courtroom I needed to be in, and then told me to take care. No parent should ever have to experience first appearance for their loved one. No one looks at you. No one acknowledges your existence. Connor came up on a monitor, and the judge never looked up from the paperwork in front of him. He asked Connor if he understood what was happening, and Connor said, "Yes, sir." And the judge said $750,000 bail, still never looking up. This was a brief but incapacitating dunking into the legal system, a system I thought I would never have to experience, a system that we soon found ourselves swept away in. The one good thing that happened at first appearance is the one man in the courtroom that looked approachable was Greg Cummings. I asked him how the process worked. I told him my son was in trouble, and he said, "I hope he's not the one on the front page of the paper." After first appearance was over, we talked, and I told him that I could not visit Connor because Connor was on a suicide watch in the Leon County Jail. He said he could, as a lawyer, check on Connor. So we met in the jail parking lot after he went into the jail, and he said Connor is doing as well as expected, and we hired him right then and there as our defense attorney. Each night that week, Easter week, Julie and I visited the hospital. We met with Kate and Andy and talked about the past and the futures lost. We talked about family and community. On Thursday of that week, we took Katie to the hospital with us. While special needs, Katie is not ignorant, and she knew something bad had happened. We knew she needed to be included. Katie delivered a homemade card to Ann, talked to Ann, sang with Ann, and prayed over Ann in that hospital bed. A moment of compassion from the most compassionate one of us all. A week later, Ann Gromer passed away. We soon found out that Kate and Annie Gromer did not want to follow the status quo. They did not want retribution, they wanted answers. They purposely introduced restorative justice to the process. Simply put, restorative justice is a different way of doing things. The criminal justice system asks 3 questions. What law was broken? Who broke it? What should the punishment be? Restorative justice asks 3 questions. What harm was done? Who was harmed? And how can the community come together to repair that harm? The criminal justice system, which is more aptly named the criminal legal system, is binary, the state versus the offender. The restorative justice system is holistic, addressing harm across the entire community. The criminal legal system is focused on punishing the offenders, making sure they get the punishment they deserve. The restorative justice system emphasizes repairing the harm from criminal behavior. Restorative justice practices work to address the dehumanization frequently experienced by people in the traditional criminal legal system. Instead of viewing a criminal act as simply a violation of a rule or statute, restorative justice sees this action as a violation of people and relationships. Little in the criminal justice system encourages offenders to understand the consequences of their actions or to empathize with their victims. On the contrary, the adversarial game requires offenders to look out only for themselves. Do not talk to anyone, never apologize. Restorative justice seeks to examine the harmful impact of the crime and then determine what can be done to repair that harm, while holding the person who caused it accountable. Accountability for the person who did the harms means accepting responsibility for their actions, acknowledging the consequences of those actions, and acting to repair the harm done. Rather than focusing on punishment, restorative justice focuses on how successfully the harm can be repaired. This requires a large measure of focus that can provide for a lasting transformation of people, relationships, and community. For Connor's case, it was the Gromers who came up with the concept of restorative justice. But it was my wife, Julie, who doggedly hunted down the resources necessary to make it happen. Julie was searching for someone who could help us. A colleague of hers said that her daughter-in-law went to Eastern Mennonite University and encouraged Julie to contact Howard Zier. We came to find out that Howard is considered the grandfather of restorative justice in the United States. He wrote the book, The Little Book of Restorative Justice. And this is the foundation for many to better understand restorative justice and how it can work. Julie reached out to Howard and caught him returning from Germany. He said that he would contact 2 restorative justice lawyers that might be able to help. The following turn of events we like to call the dance lesson. Waiting in her car while Katie, who was 17 at the time, was in her ballet lesson, Julie received a call from Sujatha Balaga, a MacArthur Fellowship honored restorative justice advocate from Oakland, California. Sujatha was calling, as we later found out, to tell Julie gently that this would never happen. It had never been done for a felony murder case, and it certainly had never been done in the capital of a punitive state like Florida. When Julie mentioned that the fathers were having lunch each week, Sujatha said, "Wait, they're talking?" And Julie said yes. Sujatha then said she needed to get the victim's perspective. She said, "If they call me and agree to a circle, then I'll let you know." Well, Julie hung up with Sujatha and called Kate. Kate immediately called Sujatha. In the space of that ballet lesson, the restorative justice circle process was started with Sujatha agreeing to be the facilitator. We had to figure out how restorative justice could be worked into the existing Florida judicial system. We set up a conference call with the girl mayors and McBrides, Connor's defense attorney, and a friend of the girl mayors, Allison DeForge, who had worked in many different roles in the criminal system. After much discourse, a little light came over Allison's head and said, use the pre-plea conference. From the community perspective of restorative justice, the girl mayors then created a petition to document support from the community for what they were trying to accomplish. A petition garnered over 1,000 signatures in 10 days across a multitude of faiths and a broad scope of the community. A petition that was filled with face-to-face interaction and not the anonymous sign-up of the internet. We talked to people directly in churches, coffee houses, and parking lots. This petition and the proposal to use the pre-plea conference was proffered to then Assistant State Attorney Jack Campbell, who agreed and allowed Restorative Justice Circle to be introduced into our son's case. A Restorative Justice Circle is a facilitated, structured dialogue. It provides an opportunity for impacted people to come together to address harmful behavior in a process that focuses on harms and needs with the distinct goal of accountability and repair. Sujatha was hired on the defense team to allow her unfettered access to Connor. While adamantly remaining neutral, she knew she had to prepare Connor for the conversation that was to come. She did that with all the participants, but she really focused on Connor. She knew the fortitude it would require of him to participate in the circle. Our circle included Connor, the girl mayors, the McBrides, Sujatha as the facilitator, the defense and prosecuting attorneys, and key to the concept of restorative justice, a representative of the community, Father Michael Fuller. Ann too was present at the circle. A purple afghan a friend had made was laid out in the middle of the circle. And on it placed things in remembrance of her. A toy from a maternity shop where she worked, theater award that she had earned, a cast of her hand a friend had made, a small opportunity to include her in the circle. The circle was held in the Leon County Jail building. We all had to be seated before they would allow Connor to be brought in. At Sujatha's specific preemptive request and approved by the girl mayors, he was allowed to attend the conference unshackled. Unshackled seems like a simple concept, especially to those of us who have never been shackled. But in this case, it moved Connor from the dehumanizing jail and legal system into being a participating member of the community. The first thing Sujatha did to start the circle was have Connor hug his mom. In the Leon County Jail, there's no physical contact. So it had been a year and a half since Julie was allowed to hug her son. From there, without prompting, Connor hugged me, and then he hugged Kate, and then he hugged Andy. A moment of compassion to start the discourse. From a totally personal perspective, this was huge for the McBrides. The family of the offender does not exist in the current legal system. We are simply collateral damage. The Restorative Justice Circle allowed us to be part of the process. Remember, restorative justice does it differently. We even brought us to the circle a video from Katie, who explained the tragedy from her perspective, how she, in her own words, was missing her brother and her newfound friend Anne, who was having a wonderful time in heaven. Another point the circle highlighted to all was the community impact. Our community lost 2 young people with this one terrible act. The cooperative young people that helped at Katie's 17th birthday could have done great things and changed the world. The harm of losing them was immeasurable. What the Florida legal system calls offender, restorative justice calls the person who did harm, a person with a family, a person with parents, a person with a special needs daughter, a person who is part of the community. While Connor immediately took responsibility for his actions, it was the restorative justice circle where he had to step up and be accountable. Establishing the circle as part of the pre-plea conference was a crucial point. It allowed the discussion to fit into the existing confines of the Florida judicial system and be unrestricted without consequence as to what was discussed. This was especially important for Connor. It freed the discourse to make him deal with the immense reality of his crime. He stated what he did to those he most impacted, and then he heard the enormity of the impact those actions had. The day was agonizing, but that day of the circle, the day of emotion, seemed to soundly put heart and conscience into the judicial process. It was an opportunity to step out of that process that has become too comfortable. What was the crime? Who did the crime? How many years do we imprison them? And begin to examine who was impacted. What is the best way to provide restitution? And how can the community best heal from the loss of such a vibrant life? The restorative justice circle was an unknown to all of us. To put this circle in the context of the existing legal system, as we were leaving and I reached to shake Jack Campbell's hand, he told me I would not have met you and I would not have wanted to meet you. This was not a statement to be malicious. This was simply an indication of how the current system does not work to include all those harmed, all those considered collateral. In the parking lot, Greg Cummings looked a little dazed, and he said he did not charge us enough. Over the years, as I have replayed that statement in my head, I realized that the current system is easy for those who are currently enmeshed in the system. Doing it a different way with restorative justice means that these people will have to step out of their comfort zone and do something different. Some months later, Sujatha wrote an article for the legal Hickam magazine. She ended it saying, and I quote, "Julie McBride said that there were times when it felt as if the cinder block walls in that tiny room would crack from all the sorrow and heartache that poured forth from our 5-hour meeting. Looking back, I think those jail walls still did crack. Not from sorrow and heartache, but from the honesty, bravery, and willingness to try something our criminal justice system rarely sees, including victims in deciding what happens to the people who did them unthinkable harm, and a chance for their wrongdoers to begin to try to repair the irreparable before the case even reaches the courthouse doors." Some say restorative justice is soft on crime. Connor says that restorative justice circle is the hardest thing he has ever had to do, and that's from a man serving time in a Florida men's prison. Some say this only occurred because all parties were white and we had the means to pay for a restorative justice resource. Yes, we all know that race is a factor in the current system, and we owned a house that we could refinance to pay for the additional legal fees. But that highlights the significance of the dance party. Remember how Julie had to hunt for a resource and then we had to find a way to pay for that resource? If those involved in the existing legal system integrated restorative justice into their processes, then it would be there and available in all cases. It would allow it to be applied regardless of race or means. The reality is that restorative justice is a community-wide process that can be of benefit to everyone in the community, especially if this systemic change is applied to everyone. Based on my sole experience with the system, the Florida legal system can only truly be changed by the people inside it. Several years ago, I participated on a restorative justice panel with Jack Campbell. He said something there that is huge to the restorative justice process. He said that there has to be a tipping point for the current system to change. We have seen that tipping point only can come from the people entrenched in the system and can only come when they are ready to change. Going further, while understanding restorative justice is not right for all cases, if the existing judicial system brought up restorative justice practices early in the process, then more people would learn about it and from it, and more harm could be addressed. More victims would get closure, and more of those considered collateral damage, like us, would have their needs considered and potentially met. From that night in intensive care, Andy Gromere has never shown me that hatred. The Gromers and the McBrides gained the rapport of parents who both lost a child. We made a connection between two families devastated by the same tragedy. On January 6, 2013, an article came out in the New York Times Sunday magazine that highlighted this case and its use of restorative justice. This brought a lot of media attention that provided an opportunity to speak about and promote restorative justice. The McBrides participate with the Gromers and Forum for college students to introduce restorative justice to the lawyers of the future. An attempt to lay the foundation for achieving that tipping point for change with these new people coming into the system. The Florida Restorative Justice Association has made positive, yet not so far successful, progress in advocating for legislation to add restorative justice for victim awareness and into the Department of Corrections programs, adding some substance to statute to build on for the future. Here in Tallahassee, Connection First is doing amazing things to substantiate the benefit of restorative justice, supported by a memorandum of understanding with the state attorney, the public defender, the sheriff, and the chief of police, a group that normally won't agree on the color of the sky. Connection First is able to show us a glimpse of how the existing system can change. Even still, they fight an uphill battle to break down the walls behind those enmeshed in the system. Moreover, repairing the harm of conflict is not a flip of a switch. As our current system so greatly shows, the harm does not go away when the verdict is handed down. Repairing the harm is a communal reconciling effort that can go on for years. It can be used in many conflict resolution situations because it establishes a mindset of cooperation and collaboration throughout the community that can be applied to many areas of that community. From the perspective of the person who did harm, that mindset can lead to a more empathetic understanding of how their actions impacted others and how their positive involvement going forward can go a long way to address the harm. Connor has taken this to heart. It is a transformative process that can impact us all. To emphasize, restorative justice is a community-changing concept that can be integrated in the education as well as the justice system. The who was harmed removes collateral from the equation. The restorative justice process is something that can be applied across all races and socioeconomic lines, especially if the system is changed to allow for it. It can bring communities together to talk and to listen. Like it or not, crime impacts the whole community, and have the whole community at the table makes a huge difference. While his actions will always be with him, the circle allowed Connor to move forward in a positive way. From the beginning, he knew he had to better himself. Kate Gromer told Connor something that really stuck with him. She said he now has to do the good work of two people. And he's taking that to heart and doing that where he is now, knowing that he'll be able to do it when he gets out. Connor has made sure that the challenges of being incarcerated are of lesser focus than the challenges of staying connected with the outside world. He works in the law library, takes classes, teaches classes, is working on a bachelor's degree for the Ohio University Correspondence Program, and is one of the lead people in the Madison Correctional Institute Arts Program. Connor includes the concept of restorative justice in classes he facilitates whenever he can. While the Florida Department of Corrections, by default, blocks people who did the harm from directly communicating with the people they harmed, Connor understands the process of accountability can be truly healing. Like Eddie said, the benefit of just putting it down on paper of what they would like to communicate can be greatly healing. From a community perspective, this healing is essential. When these people, yes, people are released from prison, we do not want them to be a product of the prison community. We want them to be contributing members of our community. When we asked Connor what we should tell people about restorative justice, he simply said, tell them it works. Thank you for listening. So I always allow a little time for questions. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say thank you because I think every one of us that has loved one incarcerated should be the opportunity that you guys made happen in your case. I think from my side of the case, it definitely would have been very had an impact on the company.
So that's one thing Connor always says is other inmates come up to him and said, I wish I could have had what you would. And the thing about restorative justice is it can happen anywhere in the process. So restorative justice circles can be held when people are out of prison to connect the people who were harmed with the people who did the harm. Sometimes time doesn't allow for that, like in Eddie's case. And that's the shame of it, right? Because it's healing for everyone.
Yeah, I was to say it's amazing because obviously it's one thing that those of us that are on the side of the defendant, you know, have an opportunity to be participating, but I wish there was a way to better explain the peace that it brings the victims from, you know, the peace in their own hearts for their own purposes to move forward. They can somehow explain how that feels, you know, it's just like a freedom that they deserve, you know, to have.
And that's why it's very important for the Gromers message to get out. We work to make sure that the people in power who don't want to be soft on crime understand that restorative justice circle is a victim offender dialogue. And who's the lead in that? The victim. It's healing for the victim. It's closure for the victim. It's answers for the victim. It's healing for everybody involved, but very seldom is a crime two people. There's always a world around those two people that are impacted. And so the restorative justice concept and practices allow all those to participate. And that's the hardest hurdle that we're finding right now. It's soft on crime, and it's like, wait a minute, it's really for the victim. The victim is the one who benefits from that.
It's amazing to watching Ann and Gresham and those guys fight for this bill last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just, to me, it's like an absolutely like no-brainer to do it in that position that they got, and that people are just so untrustworthy of what is this gonna, you know, like it's like you said, soft on crime. I mean, I just don't understand that whatsoever. You know, it just seems like if you really listen to what your story is and what it really means to do restorative justice, it should be something that every single person in the United States should want. You know, it's just so beneficial.
So some legislators stand on a platform of punitive. That's the single word they use for the justice system, punitive. And so that's the hurdle. There are many people that understand the benefits to the victim and the community, and oh, by the way, the person who did harm. But they understand from their platform of community-based, victim first. They understand the benefits of victim offender dialogues and how that can improve so many things. And those are the people that we sort of set the hook with, right? Because they understood and we explained it. And we hope to continue this. I mean, it's, you know, it's literally, it's few words in statute. That's all we're asking for. Just to introduce the concept, just to say, just to ask the prosecutors, the state attorneys to say, we have a restorative justice expert that works for us. Would you like to talk to them? Just introduce the concept and it would be huge. And it happens in Orange County and Jacksonville, Duval County. Yes, sir.
Can you suggest that I speak a little bit about action first?
Oh, yes, please.
You spoke very highly of this stuff. Thank you very much for everything you said. Connection First does restorative justice conferences, both in criminal and community cases in Leon. We make referrals from the state attorney and from the public defender. But if anyone knows of a case where violence happened, whether it's criminally involved, whether it's justice involved, or if it's not, you can go to our website, which is connectionfirst.org, and you can make a referral for yourself, or for someone who's deaf armed, or for someone who's deaf blind. We can do any level of case, and it is free. It's absolutely free for everyone involved.
What states?
Just in Leon County, Connection First. But if you work with inmates, they can also speak to their attorneys about getting involved with us. With inmates, anyone who's awaiting trial and has already been convicted, they can speak to their attorneys who can then speak to us about getting involved.
And that point is the communication and collaboration. Excuse me, communication and collaboration. That is their expertise, and that's the community changing work that they do. Anything else? Thank you.
Let's give Mr. McBride and McBride family a well round of applause. And also remembering Fannie Lou Hamer, let's give Allison a well deserved. As our next panel makes its way to the mic, we're going to expand it just briefly. There are supposed to be 3 panelists. We're going to expand it to include a 4th panelist. We would love for you to join us. We'll find a seat at the table for you because you have an interesting story to share with us. You're doing some magnificent work I think we all will benefit from, so please join us. As the panel makes its way, we're going to ask Rondo to come and, or at least just stand and give us 90 seconds of closing remarks. We understand you have a flight to catch, and that flight is not going to wait for you. So if you all will indulge us and invite Rondo back to the mic.
So to make it brief, so in April of next year, we're doing the Day of Action. I mentioned it a little bit earlier on the panel. So what that is the day where college students will have the opportunity to be co-sponsored by Reform via 3 events that they can choose at their campus. Table an event, take over a panel discussion. And the reason why we are doing this is because in order to get those massive reform stands for, we have to show legislators and people are actually in support. And the best way to do that is to show that the upcoming generation wants to see change. So in April, we are going to look again, and if you are somebody with a college student or you're anybody or you work in college, you would like your college to be a part of this movement, I would love for it to happen. So if that is the case, please feel free to reach out to me and you can contact me if we don't get to talk more.
Thank you, Ralph. Okay, the panel is ready. So what we're going to do is ask each panelist to share some opening remarks about the work she or he is doing. And following maybe a 10-minute discussion presentation, we will throw a few questions to them and see how we can all do what we're doing better. So I'm going to start at my immediate right here, and we will get the panel discussion going with Ann Meisenthal.
Hi, everybody. Great to see so many familiar and so many new faces. We're so appreciative of everybody coming out today. My name is Ann Meisenthal, and I'm with the Big Bend After Reentry Coalition, or one of the co-sponsors of our day today. And I just want to start by telling you a little bit about our coalition. A lot of you know us already because you come to our monthly meetings. I'll tell you about myself first. I started out as a adult education teacher with adult and community education here in Tallahassee. Teaching GED and adult basic ed classes. And that led me into the Leon County Detention Facility, where I taught GED classes, communication skills classes, workforce readiness, parenting classes. And in each of those opportunities, I was able to see the infinite potential of the folks who are sitting inside of the detention facility, as well as their need for support and services upon release. So I was able to get that intimate relationship with those folks and learned about the kinds of things that they could benefit from when they were released. As part of my job, I developed a curriculum called Taking Care of Yourself, which is a life skills GED curriculum that's available throughout the state of Florida, and it's online, it's on our website. And also we developed a Leon County Human Services Resource Guide, and that's also on our website. And it is a collection of all of the education, housing, employment, and social service programming that's available in the Leon County area, so that all of the social service agencies or advocates that work with folks coming out of incarceration can access those resources to help people. As part of my job and learning about the reentry needs of people coming out of the detention facility in particular, I attended a conference for people doing employment readiness for returning citizens. And it was held at the Florida Correctional Institution for Women. Beth Nichols, who was the reentry coordinator at the time, facilitated the meeting. She and I talked afterwards. This is 12 years ago now. And she and I talked after the conference and said, you know, there are a lot of people in this room and we don't know any of them, and they're all doing the same work that we're doing. They're all working on providing reentry services for people coming out of incarceration. We need to get these folks together. So we facilitated a meeting, which led to another meeting and a couple more meetings of all the people who were on that sign-in sheet for that conference. And that ended up morphing into what we call the Big Bend After Reentry Coalition. After stands for A Fight to End Recidivism, which I think is very clever. And we, ever since, have been meeting once a month, the second Wednesday of every month from 1:30 to 3 in locations all over the city for the first 10 years, bringing together faith-based, social service, corrections, law enforcement, education, health, transitional housing programming, folks to share with each other, share their resources, and learn from each other. We always have a keynote speaker. We have an opportunity for people to share what they're doing so that we can all learn from each other. 2 years ago, we were able to secure some funding so that we could open what we call a Welcome and Wellness Center, where we were able to hire our beautiful and wonderful case manager, Elaine Webb. And we were able to begin providing direct services to people in the form of case management. So anybody who walked in the door who had a history of incarceration recently or long ago could say, I'm having trouble finding housing, I'm having trouble finding a job. Can you help me get my ID and my social security card? I don't have transportation. All the different kinds of issues that people face when they're returning. Elaine was able to help them with that. She also facilitates anger management classes, substance abuse recovery classes that help people meet the terms of their probation. She's been very instrumental in getting a peer support programming going so that men and women with lived experience can facilitate groups that help people feel like they're part of a community. I loved what you said, Kamari, about empathy and community being key factors in helping people return and feel part of the world after they come out of incarceration. And that's what peer support groups do for folks. So then we were able to partner, brilliant collaboration and partnership with the RISE Center, Leon County Sheriff's Office, and now are able to share space with them and provide those services here in this building. We have an office right around the corner, and we do our monthly coalition meetings here in this room. The only other thing I want to share now is in your packet, there are three handouts, but one I want to call your attention to is called A Day in the Life, Returning from Incarceration. And this was drawn from the reentry simulations that the Department of Corrections puts on, but it's a very abbreviated look and we have all of the obstacles that people face coming out of prison on day one. So if you're returning with either $50 or nothing, with no transportation, maybe a bus ticket, and nowhere to stay, and no job, and not necessarily having any family support or friends who can help you. And maybe you don't want to go back to the community where your family lives because that's where you got in trouble and you want to start fresh. So the obstacles that people need to overcome, in addition to having to pay all the fines and fees and probation costs, and getting those licenses and attending those AA meetings and all of those things, is we kind of broke that down on this to give you a taste of what that experience is like and why it's so important that people have resources and support when they return. The other thing, just briefly, is that there's a letter in here that was written by one of the men in one of the state institutions that we visit. We go in and introduce our coalition and our welcome center to people coming out of, we'll call it Jefferson, Gadsden, Madison, correctional institutions, and so that they know we're here for them when they are released. And then we communicate with them via Securus JPay email system. And I just wanted to share one of the letters that one of the men wrote because I thought it beautifully exemplified the need. I would love to meet the community and find a support group. How about someone like a mentor or something that can help me make some decisions and make sure I'm on the right path? I need some positive people in my life because being behind these fences and walls ain't no place to be. To be honest with you, I'm scared. One little false thing and I could violate my probation, be sent back to prison, and that is something I'm not wanting. I've had enough of that life. I'm 50 and it's time for me to do something with my life. So yes, I'm scared. So anyway, I wish I had a few stamps and I could keep in touch with you because I had no one else to talk to. So that gives you a feel for the kinds of needs and desires and readiness for change that a lot of people have when they come to us. So thank you. That's a start. Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is Sydney Rose. I work for the Florida Department of Corrections and Parole and Probation. When I first started with the department, I was hired on as our employment specialist for Circuit 2, meaning that I helped provide mainly employment services to anybody that was on probation or parole. But I also filled in some other gaps as well, if they were needing housing, if they needed some extra resources, helping mainly their officers get connected with those as well, so they know what resources we have. I serve here in Circuit 2, in Leon County, so I serve all of Leon, Wakulla, Franklin, Liberty, Jefferson, and Gadsden County. So all those people that are on probation, they have the, me as a resource if they need help finding employment. Just a little bit of my story. I did not grow up here in Florida. I'm a North Carolina native. Got my bachelor's degree in Western North Carolina from a small little school in psychology and community and nonprofit work. Did not think this is where I'd be today. But here I am, and I enjoy every minute of it. I love the work that we do. So I have a question. What do people think probation officers do? Because I did not know before I started my job really what they did, because you see online or you see in movies, they're just like, all right, go pee in a cup. It's like really the only thing, but I'm genuinely, like, if you don't know what a probation officer does, what do you think they do? It can be positive, negative. We hear a lot of the negatives, so that's okay. Accountability, yeah. Violate, yeah, I hear that one a lot, yeah. Yeah, violate me, yeah, hear that one a lot as well. So kind of what we do in simpler, very simple terms is that we monitor the conditions that that the state has imposed on I know some we call them offenders, people that have been released, either they haven't specifically been released from prison, they could have been in jail for a short period of time, they could have done a prison sentence and then have probation following. But what we do is help monitor and enforce the special conditions imposed by the court, meaning that they signed before they were sentenced, they signed this plea or what they said they were going to do once they were released from custody, either being from the county jail or being from prison. So that could mean weekly drug tests, that could mean community service hours, and that's something that we help monitor and do. So if the court has said, hey, we need you to do 250 hours of community service, you need to do 10 hours a week, and if you don't do that, then your probation officer can violate you. That's kind of where we get the bad rep a little bit, is with that, but I can say that we have been making a lot of progress as a department. Secretary Dixon and Assistant Secretary Joe Winkler have been very big on reducing recidivism within the whole state of Florida, and with people on probation as well, wanting people to early terminate their probation, working with the state attorneys, working with the defense attorneys, wanting to make those relationships with everybody so we can make sure these people are being successful on their supervision and getting the resources that they need as well. If we think that maybe they need to go do a drug and alcohol abuse screening, we can help refer them to that. We can help with all those things. Some of the programs I wanted to talk about real quick is one of the big ones that Assistant Secretary Joe Winkler started. It's called Face It. This class is really based on I think it's either within 90 days or 60 days, there's a huge population of people that were violating their probation, meaning that they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing, and a lot of times it came back and was like, I didn't know I was supposed to be doing that. And so Mr. Winkler created this class and this curriculum. It's called Face It. The F stands for Family, Friends, or Faith-Based Organization, Attitude, Communication, Employment, Improvement, and Taking Responsibility. These are all the things that he finds necessary to be successful on probation. he really focuses on that first one, that F, family, friends, and faith-based organizations. We teach this class, in Circuit 2, we teach this class once a month, the first Monday of the month. We rotate between our 2 offices here in Tallahassee. So like we have one coming up, it got rescheduled, it's actually next Monday from 3 to 5 at our Tallahassee office on South Gadsden Street. We have officers that lead this class, senior supervisors that lead this class, and we are there to answer any questions that anybody has. We have recently started taking this program into the institutions as well. We've done one at Wakulla CI, and we've done one that I've participated in out at Gadsden with the women out there, and they were very successful. We gather them all in one room, we go through the program, we watch the videos, we go through the slides, and then we just open the floor up for questions because they want to know. And they might seem like silly questions, but to them they're not. Like some lady asked, she's like, I've been in here for 15 years. I want to go on a cruise to the Caribbean. Can I do that? And the answer is yes. Like she has to get permission from the judge to do that. But like, it might seem like a silly question, but to her, it's not. Like, I want to go on vacation with my family. I want to go to another state. Can I do that? And all the answers, we're able to give to them in that moment. We have certified officers that are there to answer those questions. We're hoping at some point to do a FACET class for the community, hopefully here, where like anybody that wants to learn about what probation does, because sometimes we get the bad rep and that's okay. But we want to show the community what we do and how that goes forward for us. So another program that we do reentry seminars. We go in to the institutions here in Circuit 2. They do them in other circuits as well, but we go in, we have a table. Those are also those moments they can ask questions about probation. The employment specialist goes, we try to give out flyers, even if they're not coming out on probation, giving those tips and tricks of, hey, somebody's going to ask you, when you go to apply for a job, what is this gap on your resume? Or yes, you checked the box that you committed a felony. Tell me more about that. And we want to give them the tips and tricks to help with that, or connect them with another organization that can help with that as well. Another thing that we do is the reentry simulators that Ms. Ann brought up, like that sheet of paper right there. Man, I got to participate in one of those the other day, and I don't know, like, it is insane. It is crazy. If you ever get the chance, if you see something, or maybe we can do one here again soon where you get to participate in that, it really puts into perspective what people go through on that first day getting out. Either not having a bus ticket or having only that $50, like it really puts in perspective. Almost all of our officers have gone through that, which is really important to our circuit, is that we want to put ourselves in their shoes. And we can do it to an extent with that simulator. We can't do it all the way, but we can do it to an extent. And man, like trying to get everything done, go to probation, and then go to your AA meeting, and then you gotta go to work, and then you gotta do all that. It's difficult, and it was really an eye-opener for me. And then another big thing we've been really trying to do is just be involved in our community. I mean, we're community corrections. We want to be involved in events like this. We are at the trunk or treat on in front of the Capitol. We want to be involved in our community and let people know that we're here. We're here to help them. And kind of the last thing that we're reinstating back here in Circuit 2 is a class called The Need for a Change. We just had some officers get certified in this class. I think it's going to be a real help in our circuit. I just took it. I should know how big it is. I think it's 12 to 16 weeks. And it's just getting back to those basic problem solving skills, like going back to the basics. And I mean, it was eye-opening for me because when we do the training, we go through all 16 sessions within 3 days, but that was a lot. But just getting back to the basics on how to do certain things. But that's all I got. If you have any questions, I am transitioning out of my role as employment specialist within the next month or so. I'm about to go to the academy to be a probation officer. So I'll be around for a little while, but if you have any questions, I've got business cards and all that sort of stuff. I can connect you with somebody.
A point of privilege, please. Will you say your name, spell it, and give us your contact information for those of us who didn't write it down, because you were gracious enough to participate in this panel, so we do not have your name listed as such. So if you would indulge us by doing that, we would greatly appreciate it.
Yes, my name is Sydney Rose. It's SYDNEY. Rose as in flower, ROSE. My email address is sydney.rose@FDC, as in Florida Department of Corrections, .myflorida.com. And my cell phone number is 850-363-7734. I'll double check that. I think I say it about 30 times a day. I think I have it memorized, but yeah.
Does she need to repeat anything to anyone? We got it? Okay.
Good afternoon. See everybody. My name is Brad Czajkoski, and I am the Director of Reentry and Inmate Programs at the Leon County Detention Facility. So my team, my department oversees all of the activities inside and out of the detention facility in regards to programming and reentry. And so our hope in our plan and our desire is that the folks we work with never come back to our facility. That's kind of it in a nutshell. So I have a team of case managers that work diligently every single day inside the facility and make connections with our folks. And spend a lot of time preparing them for release. And we'll talk a little bit here in a minute about some of our programming, but give you a little bit of tell you a little story about myself, kind of lead into where I'm at today. A lifetime ago, I think I'm the senior statesman at the table here.
I don't know about that.
I was trying to take a bullet. Anyway, lifetime ago, I was deputy sheriff at a small office in a different state, and I was trained with some of the classical styles of criminal justice to believe that offenders were difficult people that were just different and needed to be treated differently. And unfortunately spent the beginning of my career believing that people were beyond help, and it was just job security and all that sort of good stuff. Until one day I was transporting a young man from our facility to the state prison reception facility. And I had arrested this young man 4 or 5 times in my career and transported him to jail or to prison at least once prior to this. And I typically didn't talk to anybody when I drove them, because that was an extra duty. I got paid an extra $50 to transport people to prison. So every time that opportunity came up, I'd take advantage of it. And my normal practice was to tell them to sit down, shut up, hold on, and we're gonna just get up and back so I can get my $50 and get back home on my day off. Well, in this particular case, I didn't do that. I left the radio off, and as we were driving, I said to this young man, I said, "What is your problem?" I mean, I said a few other choice words along with that, but that's what I asked him essentially. And he answered me. And he started talking about his life. And it started with when I was 3, when I was 5, when I was 7. He talked about all this traumatic stuff that had happened. By the time he was done, I looked at him and I looked in the rearview mirror. I said, "No wonder you're a mess." I said, "Somebody should help you with some of that stuff." And he looked at me and he goes, "Well, maybe you can help me." And I said, "Well, that's not my job." And he said, well, whose is it? And I said, I don't know. Fast forward a few weeks, I was at the detention facility. That particular agency I worked for, the detention facility, the sheriff's office, were all in the same building. That conversation resonated with me it kept me up nights. And I went into the detention facility one day and I started walking from cell block to cell block, and I was asking people the same question, tell me about yourself, what's going on? I kept hearing the same stuff over and over again. Well, one day the sheriff pulled me aside and he goes, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm trying to learn something about people. And he looked at me and he goes, well, that's not your job. And I said, well, whose is it? He said, well, I don't know, but it's not yours. So I kept doing that, and I kept getting these weird looks, and then a couple of years later, I decided I wanted to spend more time with people and try to help them, and so I transitioned and I became a probation and parole officer. And I was assigned high-risk cases. And my first day on the job, I walked in the office, the supervisor said, here's your calendar with all your appointments, here's a stack of files, and there's a file cabinet with all the rest of your files. And I said, why is there a stack of files on my desk? He says, those are your frequent flyers. Those are the people that come in and you have to deal with so often, we don't even put their file back in the file cabinet. I said, wonderful. And I said, well, where's my first person? I went out to the lobby, brought my first person in. I looked at my schedule. I had scheduled to meet with 20 people that day. And I think, how am I going to get 20 people through? About an hour into my first appointment, my supervisor was walking by the office looking at my window and was going, what's going on? Went on to the next one, and that took an hour. He finally came to the door. He said, they're stacking up in the lobby. You've got to move a little faster. And I said, well, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. And again, I'm paraphrasing quite a bit here. And he goes to me and he goes, well, that's not your job. And I said, well, whose is it? And he goes, I don't know, but it's not yours. And so I left that work after a while because I realized I couldn't do the kind of help that I really wanted to do. And so I went into the nonprofit world for the next 22 years doing reentry, where I figured out, I got an idea. I know whose job it is. It's all of ours. It belongs to everybody. It belongs to this community. It's our responsibility. It's not just the sheriff's office. It's not just the Department of Corrections. It's not just the Tallahassee Police Department. It's everybody's job. So that's what drives me every single day. So fast forward, I had an opportunity to leave a much colder climate and move to Florida and come to work for a sheriff that says, hey, I want to do some significant reentry work in the detention facility. So I got here in the midst of COVID. Everything was shut down. We have no programming for almost 2.5 years. He said, you need to start everything back up. So we started literally from scratch. We said, well, what are we going to do? And he gave me the green light, said, just do your thing and make it happen. And so now we have 32 active programs inside the detention facility, all geared towards preparing people one way or another for their return to the community. When we started putting things together, I worked with my team and I said, everything we do has got to have a purpose. Everything's got to have a plan. And so the first thing we did is we categorized all of our programming. So all of our programming in our facility here today falls into one of 4 categories. So either spiritual programs, educational programs, transformational programs, or vocational programs. And each one has a purpose. Spiritual programs are to engage the soul. We don't put a particular spin or flavor on what type of spirituality. We don't go down that road. We have folks with all different religious expressions inside our facility, and we do what we can to facilitate all of those. Educational programming is all about engaging the mind. If you sit too long without anything productive to do, you're going to come up with things to do that we don't want you to do. And so we come up with things where they can just exercise their brain a little bit. So we have a creative writing class. We have an art class. We have GED classes. We have a sewing class that's wildly popular. Transformational classes are all about changing their heart. And those things are things that are intended to make significant changes in their life. Anger management, substance abuse, cognitive behavioral therapy, you name it, we've got all kinds of things. That's the most classes fall under that category. Vocational, it's all about engaging their hands. We want to give people a purpose and give them an opportunity to learn a new skill. What they don't realize is a lot of our programming, it really has a foundation in vocational programming. There's people looking and say, well, why do we do a sewing class? That seems kind of silly. Who sews anymore? Well, it's not about sewing. It's about showing up every day. It's about working hard. It's about taking direction well. It's thinking on your feet and working well with others. You suppose those skills are good to learn when you go into the workplace? Absolutely they are. And those are the kind of things that we want to teach people. And so through all of our efforts, we've got this programming that's underway. Our purpose is to give people some skills and some basic tools that they can utilize. When we know somebody's getting ready to leave, we help them put together a transitional plan that talks about what are the things I need to do when I leave this facility. And we have a little different spin on what we do because more than half of the people that are in our facility aren't going home. They're going to prison. And they're going to spend a number of years away from this community. One of my dreams and my goals for the future, we're not quite there yet, is we want to put together a plan or a program that will help prepare men and women who are going to prison so they can hit the ground running when they get to prison and understand that the programming doesn't stop when they leave our facility, that there's all kinds of things that they can continue to learn while they're incarcerated. And so that's something we're working on, and hopefully soon we'll have some meat on that bone, if you will. And then once they're released, we have right next door, Ann mentioned the RISE Center. It was a vision of Sheriff McNeil's a few years ago to create a community-based hub. It could be a resource where people could leave incarceration, and whether it's the detention facility, state, federal prison, or people that have just had an experience with the criminal justice system, maybe it was 10 years ago, could walk in the door and just say, I need some help. And we would have community partners available, we would have staff available, we'd have resources available. So we have partners that come into our facility and spend time working with people. We have a clothing closet where people leave the detention facility without clothes. They come in with the clothes they were arrested wearing, and they go home wearing the clothes that they were wearing when they were arrested. Oftentimes people aren't the same size when they leave incarceration. They're either bigger or smaller. What we find is they're mostly bigger, so their clothes don't fit anymore. So we have to get them clothes. It's a simple thing, but sometimes you think that can be a very difficult challenge. So the purpose is to try to get the community fully engaged and involved in helping us in this effort in reentry. And we have, if you've not met Sheriff McNeil, you won't find a person in law enforcement more dedicated and committed to helping people become a better version of themselves and have an opportunity to re-enter the community and do things the way that they probably want to do instead of the way they have been doing it. And then I'm going to wrap it up with just a couple things. And this is just strictly my personal opinion, my personal viewpoint on things. People ask me all the time, why do you do the work you do? I have a couple of personal philosophies that are part of this whole plan and what drives me on a daily basis. The first thing happened 40 years ago when I was in college and I was doing an internship at a state prison. And an older, wiser associate warden came into the room, and there was a bunch of men and students who happened to be just a bunch of men. We were in that room, and he came in and he said, "Gentlemen, I'm just gonna tell you one thing, and that's the only thing I'm gonna teach you while you're here." And he looked at us and he said, "Gentlemen, if you don't believe in redemption, you have absolutely no business in corrections." I've never forgotten that word, that phrase. If you don't believe in the power of redemption, you have no business in corrections. I've never forgotten that. And the second one is, I just challenge everybody in this room, everybody in our community. When someone's incarcerated, whether it's in a local facility like ours or a state or federal facility, the reality is we strip them of all they are and all they have. And when we release them, that's how we release them. And so if we believe that we have the moral authority to separate someone from us the way we do, and we strip them of all they are and all they have, then do we not have an equal moral responsibility to restore them when they come back? So I'll let that marinate for a while while my friend here speaks. So.
Rich show, being educated with Joseph House. I just gave a brief thing on myself. I was incarcerated from the age of 18 to 40. I was recently relieved.
Speak a little louder, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You hear me? Everybody hear me good? Okay, straight. You know you're my main man. Okay, straight. Sorry. I was released November 29th of this month, 3 years ago. It was, of course, the darkest time of my life. It was a time that instead of corrections, I got worse. Because I was laughing when you had said hit the ground running, because we definitely need that in the prisons. If we have what we have in the county jails, in the prisons, it'll work, it'll push. But I hit the ground running like in the wrong way. Like, so at 18, you know, going in prison, you around people that's been in there 30 years. So I did every bad thing you do. I was fighting, I was gambling, always going there. And I just did it so long that I got lost, that I didn't even see streets. I didn't care about nothing on the street no more, had anything to do with Pre. Pre and the streets was not even, it came to a point where I had been locked up so long, I couldn't even imagine, because I don't have anybody. I'm not writing anybody. I'm getting distant more from the family. And now all of a sudden, it went 3-5, it's a decade. I'm 28. And I'm in a state because I'm going back and forth to see him, close management, and it's solitary confinement, made for the bad of the bad, and I'm going in and out, until one day, at the beginning of my sentence, I don't see it. I cannot see that date. 2099, I can't see that. But it comes a time where I'm sitting in, I just got back to see him, I'm back on one, I'm doing all these things over and over and over, and that's one thing I can't stand, is to be stagnant in life. So like I see this date now, it's creeping along, it's barely down there, but I can see a little light. Now I'm scared, because I don't know how to handle the streets. I know nothing about the streets. People say, man, it's gonna be a culture shock. They gotta find a better word for me. Because I went to prison if you took a person that just say went to prison in 1970 and got out in 92, did the same 22 years, he wouldn't be nowhere, he'd be way faster than me still. I went to prison in 1999, where there was no Google, was no email, and on top of all that, you know what I did? I have no ID, license, I had 8 cars, but somehow I never had a license. I didn't have these things, I never had a birth certificate. None of these things. I met Father Dustin in 2017 at Santa Rosa Correction. And Father Dustin is the director of Joe's house. When I met him, I was in the room, I just went to CM2, which in Santa Rosa on CM2, you allowed to have a roommate. And my roommate, which he was like, hey, please come by every now and then. I was like, he was Catholic. I mean, you ain't gonna see too many black Catholics in prison. So he was like, nah. He said, hey, this ain't no regular priest. He different. He'll tell you about like we talking about all kind of stuff. Well, I'm a very loquacious person. So I'm like, when he comes the first day I meet him, they literally never talk again. Like we like talk, and he's talking about he wants the guys out of prison to have a place to go. I said, I never met nobody in my life like that. So I'm like, this guy is coming into prison, and you know the officer's behavior, and he's actually trying to figure out ways to help guys get out of prison because he see the problems that they have. So we went to talking. When I went to CM3, by me being going to Florida State Prison so much in Santa Rosa, in all this trouble, it kind of like pushes me to when I get on 3, I'm able to work fast because they already know who I am, so they hire me quick and I'm on the runaround. So that spaced me in. Father Dustin, when he used to come in and do his checks, I couldn't really talk to him because I was busy working. We lost contact. I went back to the compound, but I winded up coming back to see him. I wound up coming back to see him in 2020, which one day I'm sitting in my bed and I was having a problem with my RDP, which is a meal, a diet. And it's religious diet. And my roommate seen a chaplain out there. He's like, man, you want to speak to the chaplain about you? And I was bitter. I was 6 months from going home after doing 22 years. And I knew what I was going to do. I was so mad because I hate talent, right? And it's not that I love Florida State Prison. It's just, I've been there so many times and it's by yourself. And I was like, God, why are you doing this to me? I already don't know what I'm doing. And you sending me to Santa Rosa. But, God knows best. He knows everything that's going on. Because Father Dustin hadn't been there since I left. And it was over 2 years, and then the coronavirus kicked in, so they wouldn't even let nobody come. And this day, my roommate was at the door. And he was saying, man, there's a chaplain now. You want to talk to him about the thing? I said, nah, I was reading the Kinfolk. I'll never forget it. Pillars of Earth. Great book. So I was like, man, I ain't thinking about that. I said, don't worry about it. I said, man, I go home in 6 months. They can have all these trades. That was my exact words. But some say, yeah, I say, which chaplain is it? Now, Father is not a chaplain. He's become as a volunteer. Y'all don't worry about it. I'm a cancer. I'm too emotional. So I started getting up. And when I got up, what made me to me, he said, thank you. He said, it's one of them Pope ones. I said, Pope. That made me get up because I know most Black guys in prison. I know how we are. We didn't know nothing about Catholic. Before fathers, I knew nothing, and I would get them mixed up. I didn't know what a bishop, who, what. So when he said Pope, like, I know Francis ain't here, but I felt like it was Father Dustin, and I hadn't seen him in almost 2 years. So what happened was he was upstairs. He said upstairs, we got in, and I can't see because the way the doors are, they only give you a small plexiglass, so you can't really see down. But as soon as he came in my perimeter, I could see a piece of him. I seen his face was a lot bigger. I was like, man, I said his name, he said mine at the exact same time. Now, remember what I told you guys earlier, that I had never met nobody like Father because he was trying to make a place, well, he was trying to invent this place. I even told him name it the House of Joseph. He said, all right, but he liked it the house, Joseph's house. And he said, I'm gonna throw him off the wall. Well, as soon as he seen me, he said, guess what? I opened the Joseph house. I said, yeah. He said, I know you said you ain't never want to go. I said, I need to go. I said, I need to go right now. I said, man, I need to be there. He said, you need a place to go. He said, I'm writing your name down right now. He said, I don't care. I'm pretty sure we got the one room. He said, you're there. And that right there, it was 2 moments. Because in that moment, you gotta understand, I'm still here. I've been at St. Louis for a couple months now, and I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm about to do. I'm thinking of Houston. I know I ain't going where I came. That's one thing I know. But I ain't see what God had. And this is so critical. What I'm gonna tell you, I'm getting out. Because God blessed me, but stories I know you guys know. And when you were talking, everybody don't get that chance. But, you know, God seen it in my, I don't know how he gave me the chance, but he gave it to me because that was for me. If I would have gotten out without that, without the Joseph house, there is no doubt in my mind I would have been back in prison. My son had got out 2 months prior to that. He had been back already. He just was released. Everybody I know from my way that got out in that time, since 2021, is back. But I sit here now, and I don't have much, but I have so much in my life because I'm free. I have a family. I have my own business, and I'm surrounded with people who love me. And that was what was critical. That's what I talk about a lot in my speeches, because going to the Joseph house and meeting people, Julia, Michael, like, I met so many good people that I can tell you right now, when I was in prison, I didn't think nobody, people out here, I thought y'all felt like the officers. They treated us like dogs. I thought anybody in their right mind would not like me. There is no way you could like me. How could you like me? And I've been in prison for 22 years. That's how I thought. And I can tell you right now, that's how most prisoners think. So that Joseph house is opposite of that. I mean, I met a dude when we pulled up. Rachel and Father Dustin came and got me. 6 months later, I had told myself I'd never look back at Santa Rosa, but thanks God be to Secretary Dixon, they approved me, and I'm able to go in and talk to some of the guys. I came from there. We pulled up to the Joseph house, and I met one of the brothers there named Chad. And Chad was like, he was like quiet, but for this day, and I learned that he does this the whole time he's living. When the person is coming in, he cleans the house, have candles burning everywhere. And he's like, he gives you that empathy. You know, like, because Father Dustin can't do that. And that's why, as an alumni, I call myself an alumni. I work for him, but that's what I do. Like, I told him, I said, man, it's God has his calling for Father Dustin, and that's what he's doing. But he can't do, like, he can't, sometimes the guys only need to hear from me. You know what I'm saying? They know they can call me anytime. They can call me 1 o'clock in the morning. You know, it's certain things they ain't gonna be able to tell the Father Dustin, you know, but they can tell it to me, and they do. And that's how it was when I got to the Joseph house. Groups, the things, it's proximity, it's just being there, intimate. We had one house when I first got there. We have, thanks be to God, opened up another house right next door. I mean, come on, like, you know that's godliness. Right next door, 2 fully paid houses, come on, like, we can hold 18, people told us we currently have 6. No, you don't have to be Catholic, I'm not Catholic. I mean, it's a Catholic diocese, I mean, but when I was there, we had a Muslim, a Mormon, a Catholic, Christians, we all get along. We help each other get jobs and things because those things aren't. I was not on the face of the earth. When you put my name in Google, it still had me in prison. It's still the best it would do. It'll go to my son and give a whole Bible. And then it'll get to my dad, and then it'll say, pre-shelter in prison. And the reason why I did that, because as I told you earlier, I was so lost in the system. I never had an email. I never paid a bill. I never had nothing in my name. I never had an ID. So all these things started to feel difficult. I ran into this lady for Indeed. She said, don't worry about it. I'm gonna show you the trick. I said, oh, okay. She said, put in 5 applications every day. You get them. I said, yeah, that. I said, dang, why didn't think nobody think of it? I did it 2 months. I still, right now to this day, haven't had a call. You know how I got jobs? A fellow at the Joe's house. One of my brothers was working at the house, and it's one of those quota jobs. They look at your number every hour. But I work for that $12.50 like nobody, because I've been working slave work in prison for free for days that I have to do anyway. So like, I love that, the group and the brother, and it became family. You quickly, I don't care who it is, if the person comes to the Joseph house tomorrow, it's family just like that. But all this happened because of a lot of people. It is not just all of us. It's because of the community. That's why when you said it at the end, I was like, yeah, that's just so true. You know how I met all these good people? Yeah, it started with Father Dustin, but it was who I was around. I ain't around nobody negative. They don't even stick. They can't even be around me. They can't even be around me. And some of the guys come in, and a lot of these guys ain't getting out of prison holier than thou, right? They might say, okay, listen, I let them know, Greg, Sean, serious. This is serious. And they gonna look at me, trust me, I do not want the attention, but they look up to me. So I have to be on my A game. And now I got there's 2 of them. I'm trying to help them with their little business now. They see my pressure washing business going, and they see me, they look up to that. But I always show them, listen, you gotta do it the right way now. You can't, because this is what I did. It's blood, sweat, until you want to stay free. You don't want to be walking. I ain't never in my life thought I'd be driving a car and look at the police and they don't worry about it. Listen, it's a blessing. It's the smallest things in the world that you appreciate, trust me. But it's those things like that help me understand that it's people like you guys, people that's here. Cause I understand I was late. I'm so appreciative of y'all that was Michael did. I was supposed to be at the other one. I don't even supposed to be here right now. But sometimes God laugh when we have our plans. I thank you guys for listening to me. We actually have a gala coming up December 6th. And we have our father, Dr. Gregory Boyle. He has the biggest game interventions in the world. It's called Homeboy Industries. I'm actually doing his book, Tattoos on Broken Heart. Wow. Book club. It's every Monday at 7 o'clock. And you can join however we are on the last chapter. And we welcome you. And it is free. I kind of has to say so, and I wanted it to be free. However, it is a nonprofit, and we're trying, it's a fundraiser. You know what I'm saying? So, take that into consideration. We do only have, like, I think, 256 almost there. But, you are welcome and invited. Thank you so much.
We do have some questions, and what we're gonna do now is, ask each, panelist to devote maybe up to 2 minutes to, the questions. We'll get in as many as we possibly can. I know we're running against, some timelines here. So question number 1, what specific programs have been implemented in your organization? And can you speak to, any, positive outcomes? Brad, we're gonna start with you.
Yeah, I kind of went through the outline of the programming, so, just kind of give you some historical data on it real quick, January 4th of 2023 was my first day on the job. As I mentioned earlier, we came in here, and I came in and a couple of my staff, we were all hired on the same day. We had nothing, so we started from scratch. And so it took us about 6 months to build up our portfolio of programming. So we really didn't have a full year's worth of data, but we had over 275, I think we had 275 folks completed programming in 2023. And we just did the number up to October 31st, where almost 800 people have completed programming in one fashion or another. And so we are seeing greater numbers of people completing different types of programs, and we're seeing some great results. And just internally, where disciplinary reports have gone down, people that participate in programs have fewer issues when it comes to behavior or violating the rules or being written up for different things. And so that's a very positive thing that's going on right now.
Thank you. If we'll pass the mic to Sydney.
Yeah, just as I talked on before, I really think our Face It program is very successful. I know a lot, like going through the probation process, that first day you walk into the probation office, you're gonna be there for about an hour and a half, just filling out paperwork and waiting to get your picture taken. You gotta get another picture, we gotta do all sorts of paperwork. If you're transferring somewhere else, we gotta put that paperwork in, call the other office, get your reporting instructions, all that stuff. This Face It class can help answer all the questions within the first 30 days. So we're not getting to that 90-day mark or that 60-day mark, and you're still not knowing the answers to your question because you haven't had enough time to ask your officer. You didn't have enough time to ask the probation and parole specialist when you were filling out your paperwork. You signed your special conditions, but you may not know what this special condition means. Thought I turned it off. I think that's like the most successful class that we have right now, especially like I talked about that first F, like family, friends, and faith-based programs. Like Pri was saying, like some of these people are not going back to the places that they were born and raised because they know it's not the healthiest situation for them to be in, is to go back to those places. Like there is a gentleman that's from the Keys that is under supervision in Tallahassee right now. He's never been to Tallahassee until he was released from incarceration. So he doesn't have that family here. But like Pri was saying, is that when they go into, if they can able to find a transitional housing, those people become their family. Those people become their friends. If they want to, they can get involved in faith-based organizations. Their attitude, we talk to them all the time. If you come in with a negative attitude, we try to work on that with them. Communication is vital. I tell people to over communicate with your officer. They might find that really annoying, but if you have a question, call and ask or email that employment setting those, that routine. Like, I think a few people have said, like, your hands not being busy, you're gonna create, it's like idle hands, something I can't remember to say. But like, yeah, that one. But like, that's employment, it sets that routine for you. Like, and that's why my job was created, because we want people to have that routine. Okay, I'm gonna go to work from, it might not be a 9 to 5, but it might be that 8, it could be that overnight shift, it could be that 4-hour shift in the middle of the day. That's still in getting them into a routine with things, and then improvement and taking responsibility. Just that whole program in general is really going well for us, and Circuit 2, and we're having really great turnouts every month. I think last month we had 8 people come, and like this program, for this one specifically, we tell them to bring their friends and family with them. We tell them to bring the people that are gonna be with them every step of the way, because then they can ask questions. Because like I asked earlier, a lot of people didn't know what we did or what we do in particular. And so we want people to ask questions, because for them to be successful, they need the support.
I think what the Big Bend After Reentry Coalition has to offer is multifaceted, multifold. I'll start with the fact that we are a coalition, and so the fact that we meet regularly and bring so many different providers together, I think is really our strength, because it enables us to better service people, because we know what's out there for them, and we know what kinds of programming might be helpful. And so there's an incredible amount of collaboration that's going on in our county. I think what the Welcome Center has to offer is it's only growing. I think we've served 160 individual people so far since we've been running, and we've served them through case management, drop-in hours in which people can come in and get services with our MSW case manager for referrals, resources, helping people find employment. She has a long list of people who she's been able to assist with finding employment. When we go into the correctional facilities, or when people come in off the street and have nowhere to go, we've been able to hook them up with many of the different programs like Joseph House, like Oxford House, Good Samaritan Network, Good News Outreach, Woodland Camps. There's lots of housing and transitional housing programming that we can hook people up with, and there's unfortunately still not enough. And so one of the things we're doing is advocating to provide more housing for folks so that they have that stability when they return. We offer 31-day bus passes for people who are coming out of incarceration. If people join us and participate in our programming, they can get 2 more 31-day bus passes. We help pay for the classes that people need in order to satisfy their probation requirements. So if you have to pay $10 a week for 8 weeks for an anger management class, and don't yet have an income and don't have any money, you're in danger of violating your probation. So if we can pay your scholarship so that you can take that class, you're well on the way then to meeting those requirements. The peer support groups that we offer, exactly what Pri was saying, is that sometimes the people who are the most helpful are people who know what you've been through. So if we have a number of leaders, people who were incarcerated 10, 20 years, who've come out with a desire to help their community and to give back, and those folks are leading groups of people who need that encouragement, that support, and that knowledge that our peer facilitators have to offer. Getting Ahead class we have that Community Action puts on with the targeting people coming out of prison. Reclaiming Freedom from Addictions and Substances is a workshop that's put on by Divine Revelation Ministries. Control the Fire Anger Management classes is another workshop that Divine Revelations puts on that helps people meet those requirements. So, yeah, we do a lot.
Point of privilege, Brad, how are you with time?
I got about 5 more minutes, I'm gonna have to head out.
Okay, would you like to give us a closing statement, and then we're gonna come to Pre and.
Unfortunately, in my role, my schedule is not always my own, so I had something dropped on me that said, can you be here at 2:30? You know, that is code for, I need you to be here at 2:30, not can you be here at 2:30? So anyway, a couple things, I just wanna mention a couple things. One is, we are gonna have a first ever event, December 14th at the detention facility. It's a Saturday morning, 10 a.m. We're gonna do a prayer walk around the outside perimeter of the detention facility. Our chaplain's office has put together, with partnership with some community folks, a couple of faith communities, 10 prayer stations around the facility, starting with covering everything from law enforcement officers, detention officers, inmates, family, the community, crime victims, the whole bit. We're gonna cover the whole spectrum. So 10 o'clock, if you can be there, come join us. We'll have coffee and hot chocolate and maybe some muffins and things like that.
This Saturday?
I'm sorry?
This Saturday?
Give them the date.
December 14th, Saturday mornings.
December 14th.
Did I say November? I did, I meant December. December 14th is the day. But other than that, I appreciate everybody here and everybody's perspective, and I'll just reiterate, I mean, I appreciate so much what you said, Bree, that it takes the whole community to make this happen. And we, you know, again, we can't do it all. We do what we do. Right? And we do it because that's what the law says we do. But there's so much more the community can do that goes way beyond what we can provide. And we can't do it without you. So I thank you for your heart and your interest. Tell your friends, tell your family, it's up to them because it's their job. You say, whose job is it? It belongs to all of us. So thanks for having me, Keith. I'm sorry I have to cut out, but if you would like to chat more, Anne's got my information. Matter of fact, I'll even do this. Would you mind?
Gladly.
If you want one of my cards, we'd love to chat with you. If you've got some services you'd like to provide inside the facility, we'd be glad to chat with you about that as well. So with that, I'm gonna have to take off. Thank you so much.
Okay, give the mic to Pre.
I want this to go and say, we have Free Friday, and that's a culinary art class, and the guys have been, we done had three complete, 4 total, go to that class, and for what I am doing, and I'm announcing at gala, so y'all kind of like getting a little sneak peek, is what I want my company, Imperial Deep Cleaning, to be the Joseph House, how Homeboy Industries is. I want to take a page out of his book. I want my brothers that come in, because my business, I clean churches. I clean one of the biggest churches in Tallahassee, and I clean it a couple times a week. Well, I can't keep doing that anymore. It's only one meeting. So I want to have jobs for these guys working for my company, which will happen. So.
Yay.
So, I thought she was coming for me, man. I thought she was coming for me. Say no, well, I'm gonna, now, true enough, I have some of these guys working for me now. They're periodically work, but I'm talking about a paying job where they gonna always have work. They're gonna always have, because I have a few guys that, these guys are very talented. I got this, it's a white guy named Nate. This is my brother here, let me tell you. This guy, it's nothing he can do. It's another brother, he's 21 years old. He has, it's called Snack Pack, so look out for him. That's his little business thing. These guys see that and they always tell me, man, I'm trying to do what you do. I said, brother, you're gonna do way more than what I'm doing. they see that it grows. Some of the guys want to get out and start, cooking. I can't cook, so they always ride me. Well, we got partnered with Rebecca and at Refire, and it kind of like took off. We have one guy, he learned to cook so well that he outcooked everybody there. Not the people that was teaching him. So, and also we do recommend, but not, it ain't mandatory, it's therapy. I think, and trust me, when I emphasize this, it's because I know how my culture is. And Black, my culture is like this. My whole family would be like, they'd be like, "Oh, you talk to the crazy people." And, you know, and because they lost even parents and grandparents, like they've been taught something so long that they stuck with it, and they feel like, okay, I just talked to my therapist yesterday. One of the good ones too. Good ones, you know, you need them. Because what I've seen, it helps me. I've been in prison 22 years. I ain't trying to catch up with nothing. If you hear me, I've been in prison 22 years. I need there. Some of the guys, they deny it. But I always let them know that I said, oh, I got to see my therapist. Act like you happy. Some of them tried it and liked it. That's how you got to get. I have to do them like that. Most of them younger than me, but the way it's the things they look up to me as. They don't look up to me as in being a cool person. They look up as me as dang, he's still like an old cool dude. Like, man, you gotta like, yeah, you gotta. I said, I want you to do more than me, but I want you to do your dreams. So the main thing I tell those guys is to dream, man. Keep dreaming.
Okay, so what we're gonna do now is ask each panelist to wrap up, and then we're gonna ask Attorney Fred Flowers to come and share some of the innovative work he is doing in the arena of reentry. It's not on the program, but what he's doing is so revolutionary until I think it would be malfeasance if we didn't glean from the work he's doing. So, Pre, we're going to start with the wrap up.
Wrap it up. Another thing is that this gala is very important to us. I actually have some flyers in the truck, and the reason why, because I should have said this. If you want to donate or if you want to contribute, we also
Use
have.
the mic.
Yeah, is it, as I turn it off, I turn it off. Hello. 2 hours. Well, I have some in there because just say you want to donate $25. We have this little $25 a month. What is some Starbucks coffee a month? That's your Starbucks coffee meal a day. Trust me, it helps me, God. Because we don't, listen, I know, I actually money. I do, but in order for these things to continue, in order for us to see, we've had 30 guys reach our doors, 70% of them free and thriving. You know what I'm saying? So, like, in order for these things to work, it takes money. And since we're a nonprofit, we have to do these things. And sometimes these things work. Like, sometimes people can't afford to give you $500 or whatever. But they be like, oh, y'all do a $25 a month, and you can just scan it and whatnot. So I'll go out there and grab them on the way out. But also, as Brad was saying, like, it's so interesting. It's so critical that we stay together. Now, I know the last time I was here with Aaron, I said that because every time I'm coming to these places, I go to a lot of them. Trust me, I try to go to a lot of them because I like them. I enjoy them. And I know I link up with somebody there every time. I don't care if it's one new, somebody's gonna be my one for the day. Like, it's always one, and it works. But the bad thing is if you doing good, she's doing good and doing good because she's doing it at least once a month. But the bad thing is we always fall out. We have the greatest intentions. But if you don't keep it going, you kind of like, y'all get spaced in. Next thing you know, you ain't seen this person in 8 months. You're like, and it fell apart. I went to this big one they had in DC, and it was people from everywhere. I mean, Chicago, everywhere. So we got together, we made this big, we had this email thread, we had this text thread, and that was 2 years ago. I heard from nobody. Like, I just heard from a judge, a prominent judge. He was on there, and I heard from a death row lawyer. She was on there. Those are the two that kind of like stayed in, but it does break. You know what I'm saying? You kind of got to keep it going. That's why, Ann, I always salute you on keeping that month, because it keeps it fresh. It keeps it, oh yeah, you know what? I'll check on that for you. I remember you might have did something for somebody and you forgot to tell them. You know what I'm saying? And these things, it helps us. And I like to meet people. I try to meet 10 people every day of my life because I was in a place where I couldn't meet people. I ain't gonna meet them. I was on my phone. But I'm enjoying my life now. So thank you so much for having me here. My name is Bree Shelton. I'm with Joseph House. Is Joseph House. You can go to www.josephhouseus.org and you'll be right there. You might see a picture of my face. Thanks, man.
Just to wrap things up, I think my biggest thing is that I want to leave y'all with is that, we want the people on our supervision to be successful. And that can look different. It might take them, being, rearrested and maybe going to like an inpatient program that helps them. Or it might be successful that they get to early terminate because they finished all their steps that they needed to do and did everything that they needed to do to move forward. And our main goal is to help people be successful, to go back into their communities, no matter what community they go back into, to be successful. I'm trying to think what else to say. I mean, if you have any questions, I'll try my best to answer them. But just very thankful for BBAR for having us here. I tell our offenders all the time, I'm like, you've been to the RISE Center, have you reached out to BBAR? And they're like, I don't know who that is. And I'm like, well, let me tell you about them. Because that's the thing, we might not have all the things for the department to be able to help these people, but I said this at our reentry yesterday in Gadsden, that we might not know somebody, but we know somebody that knows somebody. Because we want you to succeed, we want you to be back in your community and be thriving in that community and being members of that community. So like I said, if you have any questions, I'll be back there. I have some of my business cards. If you're a business and you hire people with felonies, let me know.
That's all. Not to cut you off. I ain't gonna hire nothing. If you ain't got no felony, can't work for me. No.
I would love to add your company to our list with your contact information. I mean, we do have a running Excel sheet with I've been working on it. It's about 150 places in Tallahassee that will hire, or circuit two, but they're mainly in Tallahassee, that hire people with felony charges. So if you do have a business and you're willing to kind of work with us, and I mean, you know they're going to be drug tested, so that's positive. But yeah, if you have any questions or anything like that, let me know.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today. If you registered for this event, we have your email, so we'll be in touch. We send out monthly agenda in preparation for our monthly meetings. We send out minutes after the meeting. We send out lots of announcements of upcoming events. We connect you to some of the other things that other agencies are doing. We've been nominated for a grant from Give Tallahassee. GiveTLH.com is the place to go to vote for us if you think that we might deserve getting a prize from them. So November 19th, the voting is going to open up. You'll get a reminder to go online and vote for us, but that will help us get a little bit more needed capital so that we can buy those bus passes and assist people with scholarships and do all the things that we're doing. So thank you again for coming and for all of your support. Check out our website because we have a lot of resources on there for you to help you with your clients or with yourself.
Yeah.
Attorney Flowers is going to come and share some information, and then we are going to make our closing remarks.
Not searched. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Keith Parks for putting on this event and all those people associated with him in this worthwhile cause. Now, I somehow or another, I received a copy of the agenda and I looked at it. It talks about mental health, counseling, employability issues. But one thing that is not on there, which I think is the most important issue of our time, and that is restoring the voting rights to returning citizens. So that's what I'm here to briefly talk about. And in the end, I'm going to invite the coalition to expand their mission to include this issue of restoring the voting rights of returning citizens. Now, I've been practicing law for 43 years. I have tried first-degree murder cases. I've done a whole lot of things. What I do now, I specialize in injury from car crash cases, probate estates and wills, and some civil rights. But I'm at the stage in my life, in my career, that I'm ready to step away from the mundane practice of law and actually do something that makes a difference that I'm interested in. And that brings me to this issue of restoring the voting rights of returning citizens. And as I think about that issue, I'm mindful of the fact that how the law giveth, the law takes away. You remember the Reconstruction Amendments, 13, 14, 15 Amendment? The 13th Amendment freed the slaves in Part A. Part B says, unless you have been convicted of a felony. So it's that Part B of the 13th Amendment that's being used to suppress votes contemporaneously. Now, they passed Amendment 4, I think, in 2018, which gave returning citizens the right to vote. The law giveth, but then the law taketh away, because it requires that you pay all fines, fees, and court costs before your rights are restored. The law giveth, the law taketh away. So how do I, as an individual, address this issue? You may be familiar with the Florida coalition that's headed by Desmond Meade, and they have a variety of services, similar to what y'all are talking about. And then they have a component that connects up with lawyers on a pro bono basis to go into court and file what is called a petition for modification. Now, when I did family law cases many years ago, I think the first Tuesday in every month, we called it Father's Day. That's when all the paternity cases would be held, all the child support cases would be held. And so if there is a court order, for example, that orders a man to pay $1,500 a month, but his financial ability based on his affidavit allows him to be able to pay $500. Under the law, that amount of money must be adjusted based on his ability to pay. So you may see where I'm going with this. In order for me to have any success, first thing I have to know, and I'm going to think of Leon County as a pilot project, first thing I have to know is how many returning citizens are in the county or in the area. I need to have a copy of their final judgment, which was to give me the sentence, the cost, and the fines. And then we have to figure out a way to deal with this on a case-by-case basis. One lawyer can only do so much. The idea that I'm thinking is to recruit a group of lawyers to have, I'm just thinking out loud here, it won't be called Father's Day. It's gonna be called Restoration Day. I'm just making this up as I go, all right? And so that's my vision. And this needs to be addressed in terms of the research information that we need to go forward. As I say, I'm on the verge of stepping away from the mundane practice of law. I'm going to meet with the law school dean at FSU tomorrow too. So I'm trying to gather as much information as I possibly can to come up with some program design for the FSU Law School to buy into this idea. Don't know how it's going to go. I don't know what my final program design is going to be, but the law school dean is very interested in this. The politics of the situation is that the legislature is not going to change the law. So we have to find another way to do this. And I'm thinking, the gentleman left. He said one thing that's really important, if you could just link up with one person, then that's a success. So if I can link up with him, he might give me a bridge to other people. So what I'm trying to do, I'm gonna pass around a sign-up sheet, all right? For anybody who's interested in having their rights restored, name as phone number, and then I can put that in my database and we can do this on a test model basis. So that's my interest in what I want to do. There it is.
Free.
Is that free? Free, Mr. Free.
What's going on?
Have a seat, Mr. Free. And so I asked myself, who else is doing this kind of work? And I really don't know. And so as I was, you got to give me his full name. You said something that stuck with me. If you could just link up with one, that would be a success. So I'm trying to link up with you right now. Okay. To provide the information I need. And what I need to start over. We're thinking about a pilot program for restoring the rights of voting rights of returning citizens. Okay, and I talked about how this could be done in terms of filing a petition to modify the court order to the amount they can afford. If you're out of prison, you can't get a job. So how in the world are you going to be able to pay the fees and the fines? This is all a deliberate attempt to suppress the vote. So this is my small way of addressing this issue to demonstrate it as a model that can be followed in other places, in other states. And so that's, I appreciate, he didn't know what I was gonna say, or how I was gonna say it, but that's why I'm here, to encourage you to expand your mission to include restoring the voting rights of citizens as a additional component. And I'm a former military person, so I know when you mention something, you just volunteer yourself. So I'm willing to work because it's important.
Have your hand up.
I have a question in that. So you're saying that you want to restore the rights to offenders when they get out, correct? Like when they come home.
Yes.
But current law states that certain offenders are not allowed to go at this time. Some are.
Well, I mean, sexual offenders and murderers.
Correct. But do we want to do that for everyone that comes home? That has served their time and have paid their fines and stuff, or you just want to?
This, if you paid your fines, you don't need it. You see?
No, that's not true. I don't believe. I could be absolutely wrong, but I believe that even once you do pay your fines, murderers and SOs are not allowed.
Oh, well, that's good. Oh, I'm not there. That's off the table.
Okay.
I'm not talking about murderers and sexual offenders. That's off the table. Okay. When a person gets out, what ability do they have to pay a fine? They don't have a job. Zero ability. And the fact that they have a conviction makes it more difficult to get a job. Yes, sir.
Oh, sir, we just had Donald Trump convicted of 34 felons.
Average driver restored, and be allowed to carry the gun, or any other, convicted felon. Donald Trump is a bad man. Donald Trump can do whatever Donald Trump wants to do. But regular people like us, we can't, we can't carry it. No, that's not a fair comparison. We can't do anything to stop Donald Trump from pardoning himself, you know? So I'm just talking about people who are not in that category, but I hear you loud and clear. The regular people, I have got, not if you're a convicted felon. You can't get right for that. Don't think so. I don't know the answer. I'd have to research that. But I'm thinking of restoring their rights, giving them the ability to vote, and eliminate the burden of fines and court costs from lingering over their heads. If that continues, they will never have the right to vote, and that vote will continue to be suppressed. So, thank you, Dr. Parker. I do want to pass around the sign-up sheet if anybody's interested.
And the other thing we're gonna do is, we're gonna invite you to one of our Wednesday afternoon meetings, so you can have a chance to interact with some of the community resource people who join us on a monthly basis. And I think there will be more interest, among that group than, at the present time, because we've all been here since 10:30. Okay, as we begin to wrap up, Tanae, if you're here, please join me up front so we can wrap up. And as she makes her way forward, just want to say two things. Would be very interested in either late January or early February, this reentry simulation. I participated in it. I learned a heck of a lot. So let's look at late January or February to have another reentry simulation here in Tallahassee, okay? Point number one. Point number two, Tanae can speak to this as part of her closing remarks. In April of next year, Reform Alliance, and help me out with the official names, is interested in Tallahassee being the site for the Gen X Day of Action. I'm not going to butcher that, so I'm going to give the mic to Tanae, and she can talk more about that, what that's all about, the history of GNC Day of Action.
How's everybody? Thank you so much for holding out and being here at the end of this event. If you had lunch, was it good? It was tasty, right? So I appreciate Refire Culinary for making us that tasty lunch. As Dr. Parker was saying, the Gen Z Day of Action is for college students. If you know someone, a college student or a college student, and you are willing to be an ambassador for reform, it's called the Future Shapers Network. And they just started this year. They had their first Gen Z Day of Action, and the first one was in Miami. It was at UM. And I want to get them in FAM, in our FSU, and we're going to do one in UNF in Jacksonville, and probably UCF as well. So it's going to be all over the state. And I want to be able to have as many colleges in my state participate. I won't be able to be at all of them because it's one day only. So if you are interested in that, or know anyone who's interested in that and maybe a good ambassador for us, please let me know. Also, what's this? I know what it is. So I'm also the director of the Florida Safety Coalition. And what that is a coalition of grassroots organization throughout the state of Florida doing the work, doing reentry work. We have ACLU, we have the Conference of Catholic Bishops in our reentry coalition. We also have FRC, if you're familiar with them, and even organizations all the way down to Miami. So we cover the whole state of Florida. If you are having an event, a reentry event, and you want reform there, if I'm not busy, I'm gonna be there. I am always in my car or on a plane, flying somewhere. I'll be in Miami and Fort Lauderdale this weekend for 20 minutes. I go where I am requested and needed. And reform tries to make sure that we are in the community as much as we possibly can. This is a flyer. If you are interested in being a reformer and knowing what I'm doing throughout the state, you can actually text reforms 81411. And that'll subscribe you to our monthly newsletter, and that'll subscribe you to our national one as well. Every bill that we pass, you'll know about it. In 2022, we passed SB 752 in the state of Florida. It's an incentives bill for those who are on probation to get off a little bit earlier. I'm gonna forgive you for not talking about it. No, I'm kidding. If you maintain a job 30 hours a week or more, you get 30 days off your probation every 6 months. If they get a GED, high school diploma, any vocational certificates, they get 60 days off their probation every month. And those who report remotely, that was us, we did that. That is reform. We have passed 18 policies, 18 laws in 11 states in the last 5 years. And we're gonna keep doing it as long as the political climate is good. Hint, hint. But please feel free to text this number, and I may have some t-shirts over there in a bin against the wall, but I may only have certain sizes. I do a lot of shopping. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. If you need me, please, I will give you my telephone number and my email, and we can connect. Cool beans? Cool beans.
Is there someone from the audience who is just burning with a closing statement or comment you want to share with the rest of us? Going once, anyone? Yes. Yes, we're gonna do, Allison. Come up front, so we're still live.
Very short remark, I know, this event has been long and we've already absorbed so much, but I really want to thank Michael McBride for having me, trusting me with your story. And it was just really amazing to hear everyone speak, sharing all the testimonies that we heard today. I mean, I feel very young in this space, and I don't want my formal education to overshadow like the experience of everyone here. And I know that I'm very privileged to, you know, not be connected to the criminal justice system personally, but I hope that I can contribute as much as I hear all the people in this room have, and I can make as much as an impact as I go into my professional journey as an attorney, and then doing work outside of that, like volunteer. Like I'm interested in the ambassador program, so I'll be talking about that. And I just want to thank everyone for coming out and showing up, because participation and being involved in having this dialogue is what we need, and I see the necessity of that. So yeah, thank you.
That's our feature, folks.
Okay, my name is Donald Thomas, and I came up here to do a couple of things, to brag and to reemphasize what Pretty said here about the importance of family. I did felony time in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, the tri-state, and still got a virgin butt. Yeah, but I was wanting to say how important it is the family, because I came out after doing those 3 states, unlike Donald Trump, he did all his felonies in New York. But when I came out, I got a job with Price Waterhouse. Anybody know about Price Waterhouse? Yeah, but I'm bragging because I got a job with Price Waterhouse without a resume, and you know, I eventually lost it. But then when I came to Florida, I got a job with the Department of Education. And you know, on the application where it says, have you ever been convicted? I made my own application and I changed the word ever to never. So I was honest. But when the one Department of Education just tapped me and allowed they called me down to Human Resources. And they said, Mr. Thomas, you said you were never arrested. And I said, wait a minute. I paid a lot of money to have that exonerated. How did you guys find out? Said, it was a lie, but they didn't know it at the time. But we said with the Department of Education, and so we have access to all that information. And finally, at the age of 50, I'm 70 now, and this is how you know God has a sense of humor. At the age of 50, my daughter was born. Wow. So let's give God credit, and let me also warn him, listen, don't do that again, boy. She turned 20, she turned 21. Yes, she turned 21 next year, and she lost her mom in the early age, at the age of 11. So me, a man, had to raise an 11-year-old girl into a woman. And I just want to brag that last year, she visited 7 countries. We did divide together. And this year, she visited 3 countries. We did Trinidad together. So I want her a round of applause for doing a good job as a dad.
Well, thank you, everyone. Safe travels home.